Everyone thinks because you're a zombie, you don't know good coffee. Well, they're wrong. There's only one brew that gets my seal of approval. Deadly Grounds coffee is my guilty pleasure. The aroma is so intoxicating. It brings all of my neighbors out of the woodwork. Deadly Grounds coffee. Coffee to die for and zombie approved. It's good to get a little deadly. Use the front door! Oh, they're so disgusting.
The Dorkening and all affiliated shows are not intended for anyone under the age of 18. The following may contain discussions or scenes that have adult situations, graphic violence, nudity, strong sexual content, and graphic language. This show is intended for mature audiences only. Viewer discretion is advised.
Ladies and gentlemen,
we really need to get a new picture of me for that intro because I look goofy as shit. Raz, you are muted.
Joe, oh my god, I think I have a thing for this. I have a picture for this when people are muted. I have to find it now. Oh, here it is.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I mean, that forever ago. And I just
All right. Well, guys, hello and good evening. Welcome to the first episode of the Hardcore Heels podcast. I know we just ran the Matt and Monsters. We're working on it, okay? We're working on it. But I am your host, Sewerdweller. Tonight we have Raz T Slasher and Props the Clown, Matt Props, here joining us tonight.
Hello, everybody.
And we are going to talk 1991 WCW for our first ever episode. We are going to dive into Halloween Havoc 1991 and the turmoil, I guess you could say, that WCW was in 91. For the first time in 10 years, they do not have a main eventer. They have main eventers, but they don't have an established main eventer, as Ric Flair has left the company.
Wah, wah, wah.
Yeah, and they have Sting, they have Luger, they got the Steiners, but just nobody there on the level of Flair. So, as I said, happy Halloween, everybody, by the way. It is All Hallows Eve tonight. Is tonight All Hallows Eve or is tomorrow All Hallows Eve?
Tomorrow. This is All Hallows Eve.
All Hallows Eve tonight.
Yeah.
So why not, for our first episode, go to Halloween and deep dive one of the worst, technically, Halloween shows they have.
Yeah, this is a bad one.
So, just to give everybody an idea of the premise of the show, Raz, how long have you been watching wrestling?
Oh my god. 36, 37 years, easy. Yeah.
And Matt, how long have you been watching wrestling?
Probably around 10, 15 maybe.
So you didn't watch Halloween Havoc 91 when it first aired?
He wasn't born.
Yeah, I know that was the point I was trying to make. So you have basically two wrestling fans that have been around for a lot of shit. A lot of shit. I've been around. I've probably been watching for over 40 years now, since the 80s. Grew up going to the Norfolk Scope, going to see NWA, WCW. We didn't have WWF coming down to Norfolk as much as you guys did here in Dayton.
Yeah, we had him at the Lovely Hair Arena where all my family worked. So I saw everything there. And then when I grew up and started working there, they had an exclusive deal with WCW. And then when that expired, they got the exclusive deal for the ECW pay-per-views for the last couple of years. They were a company.
Yeah, I got a friend of mine who was at I think it was Heat Wave 98, something like that. He
Yep.
was there, and he to this day he still tells me stories about what's happened there and everything like that.
If you go back and watch that pay-per-view, there are 3 obvious stoners holding up SWO signs for Stoners World Order, and I'm the kid in the middle.
So you're the W.
I was the W. The best part, though, at the last 2 years of the ECW pay-per-views, if you actually watch them, the ones that took place at Hera, there was one usher that just about every wrestler screwed with. Sandman would spit beer on him. The Dudleys took a cheese grater to Spike's face above him on the ramp, so he got bled on. Those were all me, too. Clearly me. You can see my face very clearly in those moments. I was their favorite person to screw around with, and that was a lot of fun for me. That's what got me into becoming a wrestler shortly after that. All that actually.
Okay, yeah. So basically, let's talk the history of 91 real quick before we go into the show. Needless to say, Jim Herd, his reign of terror is still going. Matt, how much do you know about Jim Herd?
Nada.
He's not heard much about him.
But so, Matt, what would happen if I told you that the president of WCW in 1991, his only experience in the business was as the CEO of Pizza Hut?
Okay.
Yes, Ted Turner hired him, hired him on, former CEO of Pizza Hut, to come on and run a wrestling company with no experience whatsoever. This guy had some of the worst fucking ideas, like known ever in the wrestling industry. The ding dongs. Raz, do you remember anything about the ding dongs?
I try not to anymore. But yes, I remember.
Basically, the ding dongs were going to be a tag team that one would stand on the outside of the ring while the other guy was wrestling, and while the guy on the outside of the ring would just ring a fucking bell nonstop. And the tag, they would ring a bell to tag, switch off. They'd have bells on their bodies, all this stuff. Thankfully, Ole Anderson came to save us on that. I believe it was Ole Anderson came to save us on that and nixed that idea in the fucking bud real quick. They also had an idea because Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles were just starting to become popular.
This was so
They
bad.
he wanted to try to make a team of turtles with shells on their backs because they could never be pinned.
Yep.
Because their shoulders would never touch the ground, and Ole said he'd just break their fucking leg.
Yep. That's basically what happened with that. That was still not the most ridiculous thing they did. We're still getting to that.
What am I listening to?
You're listening to 1990, 1991 WCW.
The same company that also was the first company to bring ICP in as a tag team.
This is true. Now there was
Yeah,
also
I
another.
can't hate on that. I can't hate on that.
That was back in the time when ICP was decent. So.
It was. I mean, I think if I remember, ICP came in right as WCW was still pretty hot. I think it was pre everybody on the fucking rosters in the NWO. I can't remember off the top of my head. But...
Who then? Well, I mean, even eventually Sting went.
Yeah.
Yes.
He went to the Wolfpack, didn't he?
That's still NWO.
NWO Wolfpack. Yep.
But one of his last ideas, one of his worst ideas, I think at least, actually got them sued by Marvel when he put. Well, I think it was Jim Herd. He put Brad Armstrong in a mask, a blue and yellow outfit with spider webs and spiders, and called him Arachnaman. Now, do we see the problem with this and why Marvel would be a little upset?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Arachnaman, I think, lasted 2 shows. I don't even know if he lasted that long. But that was the bad thing. I love Brad Armstrong. He's one of my favorites growing up. He got screwed over so much. But let's go ahead and get started with the beginning of 1991, where Ole Anderson took over the book. He takes it over in early 1990, and the only thing he accomplished is booking, running WCW close to $7 million into the ground.
Ooh.
Ole Anderson, as you're laughing at something.
I know what we're talking about right now. I'm just waiting.
Ole Anderson, Matt, especially this is for you, Matt, is the grumpiest motherfucker in the history of wrestling. He did a lot when he was in the business, when he was wrestling, he did a lot of good booking in the 80s and that. But the problem is he would never change his style.
Mm-mm.
And he was the most bitter. Like, this man went to his grave hating Vince McMahon. Didn't get to go. One of the original 4 horsemen didn't get to go into the Hall of Fame as a horseman because he told McMahon to go fuck himself. Which I know now is the cool thing to do.
Yeah.
Well,
But this was before it was
it
cool.
was called for.
That was still cool back then. But Ole hated everyone. He hated Ric Flair. He always said Ric Flair was shit in the ring. Hated Arn and Arn. Hated Barry Windham. Hated Lex. Hated Sting. Everybody. Like, I don't think I've ever heard him say one positive thing about anyone in the business.
Nope.
Well, then who do you like then?
He doesn't like anybody, dude, except himself.
It was just
Jesus.
But Ole had literally jobbed the company's brightest stars into oblivion at the expense of pushing idiotic old-timers who Ole felt would work cheaply out of fear that it was their last chance to put food on the table for their families. That's why you still got Nikita Koloff wrestling in 1990. That's why you still got Ivan. Well, I don't know. Was Ivan wrestling in 90? I think he was.
I'm going to double check that. I think he was too.
Yeah, like, this is people who basically should have retired in like 87, 88 were still wrestling.
You're talking about Ivan Koloff, right?
Yes.
Yeah, 9. Oh, yeah. He took a break, but then came back in 92 with ECW, 92, 93.
Okay.
The Russian Bear.
But the house show business was awful. He was Ole was running 2 sets of house shows. The A shows featuring wrestlers that Ole felt deserved pushes, and B shows featuring wrestlers who Ole was trying to bury, which probably was 90% of the roster at the time. Running A shows and B shows on the house show circuit isn't a weird thing because WWF was doing that too. World Wrestling Federation was doing that. Except they were putting Hulk Hogan on one tour and Ultimate Warrior on the other tour. So you still had your 2 biggest stars just on opposite ends of the spectrum, opposite ends of the country.
I think they took A and B teams too seriously. Like, A team has to be all the best people, and B is just people to get by and do a show. And that's where they very, very much screwed up.
Yeah, there was just a lot going on with Ole, and as I've said, he was just a grumpy asshole. See, night in and night out. I mean, and then the worst part about it is the B shows started outdrawing the A shows. Surprise, surprise, people wanted to see the younger talent.
Yep.
Now,
Yeah.
when you say the younger talent, you're talking Sting is probably on the B shows. And to say this pissed Ole off would definitely be the understatement of the century.
Oh, yeah.
Now, after the atrocity known as Starrcade 90, which, if memory serves me right, Starrcade 90 was the New Japan versus WCW debacle. Where they had an entire show dedicated to New Japan Pro Wrestling versus WCW. And unfortunately, in 1991, we didn't have the internet, and the Southern Wrestling fan base of WCW wasn't going to just jump out of their seats because, Fujinami shows up
Yep.
or Antonio Inoki. They're just not going to do it like they would now.
And if I remember
Um,
correctly, 90, Starcade 90, that was when it was a steel cage match with Sting and Black Scorpion for the NWA title.
oh yeah, and it was okay.
Yeah.
I think the one I'm thinking of. I think there's the one I'm thinking of with the and New Japan was later. That maybe '93. No, because '93 would have had Hogan.
I think it was 91 actually.
No, Starcade '91. I was at Starcade '91. That was
95.
Battle.
It's 95. It's got to
Was
be
it
95.
wow,
I'll
that
look it up.
late?
Let me look it up real quick. Yep, I'm right. It's 95.
Okay.
That's when they did the 7-match tournament between WCW and New
Yeah.
Japan. Yep, that was 95.
Yeah, 91. I was at Starcade and it was Battle Bowl, Lethal Lottery, which I'm not gonna like. Lethal Lottery is one of my favorite gimmicks of all time that they never fucking use.
I keep
But
waiting for WWE to bring it back in some way. Honestly,
I
they're
wish they
starting to
would.
bring some of the older. They just brought back Halloween Havoc this year.
Oh no, they've been doing Halloween Havoc with NXT for the past few years.
Oh, you're right. Yeah,
They just now made it a pay-per-view versus the special like Tuesday show.
true.
I do apologize if I cough or anything into the microphone. I have a little bit of a scratchy throat tonight. But after Starcade 90, the locker room sentiment was loud and clear: get rid of Ole. Locker room morale was so low that the common locker room motto at this time was "Pin me, pay me, I'm going home." Temporary booking committee. WCW loves their committees, by the way. But a temporary booking committee was established following Ole's removal, and then this interim committee consisted of Jim Ross, Tony Schiavone, Kevin Sullivan, and Ric Flair. Together, they would desperately try to hold the WCW together while a new head booker was sought after. So who would Jim Herd hire for the job of head booker in 1991?
A moron.
Kinda. A guy who's already really his booking kind of failed in WCW. The recently fired from World Wrestling Federation, Dusty Rhodes. And while Dusty's booking was very successful at times, the sole purpose of his agenda always seemed to come back to pushing one man and one man only: Dusty Rhodes.
Yep. And keep in mind, as a wrestler, I have a very different opinion of Dusty than I do of promoter Dusty. Wrestler Dusty, I like very, very much. It's promoter Dusty that I very much.
I agree. I attribute one of the first NWA shows that I ever went to in Norfolk. Was main evented by Ric Flair versus Dusty Rhodes, and I do attribute to that one match. Seeing that match live as why I'm still, 40 years later almost, still a fan. Word around Turner was that Dusty would be willing to come back to WCW and book the company, but Jim Herd did not want Dusty to compete as an active wrestler. Dusty agreed to play a strictly behind-the-scenes role on one condition, and can we guess what that condition is? Matt, you saw him wrestle on the show.
Did.
Oh, his first son.
He wanted his son Dustin to come with him and compete actively. So over the next 12 months, Dusty Rhodes would do exactly what Vern Gagne did with his son Greg in the AWA in the mid to late 80s. Shove his son down the unaccepting throats of the American public day after day after day. Now, there's a huge difference, though. Dustin was talented, or is talented. He still wrestles. Greg Gagne, fucking awful. Never. I mean, you guys think Adam Cole doesn't hit the gym? You should have seen Greg Gagne back in the 80s. This dude was fatter than I am. So throughout the year of 91, Dustin Rhodes would be undefeated at every major pay-per-view and Clash of the Champions card, despite having little experience and despite not being particularly over at any point during the year, which I disagree with. I think he actually was over. Like, this is just from an article that I was reading that I got some of this information from, but I think Dustin was over. Especially on this show, I think people were cheering for him.
Yeah, whenever I was watching the show, they were booing the crap out of Stunning Steve, but they were all cheering for Dustin.
Yeah, right. Do you remember him being over, though, Raz? not like extremely over, but people didn't hate him. You know.
Yeah. People didn't hate him. Like it was the. I think it was a start to him being over. It was
Yeah.
it was a solid plateau. Like he was starting to get there. Like people were warming up big time. He wasn't
Well,
over yet.
and they're pairing him up with Barry Windham, and then eventually he'll pair up with Ricky Steamboat,
Right.
and go from there. Um, but Dusty's first move as head booker was to wipe out the entire existing booking committee in favor of a tight knit circle of Dusty's closest friends. Names like Grizzly Smith. Grizzly Smith, of course, the father of Jake the Snake Roberts, and major piece of shit, Magnum TA. Ron West. I do not know who the fuck was Ron West. I don't remember Ron West. Barry Windham and Mike Graham would become Dusty's booking committee. While these men supported Dusty, the final word would always eventually come down to the American Dream. So Rhodes settled in enough as head booker to bring in a superstar whom he felt was the natural choice to be WCW's next big star, Dustin Rhodes. Dustin made his professional wrestling debut. Wow, really? This is what I get for not looking at this. This said, for some reason, this article says that he made his professional wrestling debut on September 13th, 1998. That is not true.
That's not true at all.
I think it was 1990. And had wrestled a few matches here and there for Florida Championship Wrestling, as well as a short tour of All Japan Pro Wrestling as Dusty Rhodes Jr. Yet he was still very green. He was kind of green on this show. This wasn't a thing, though, as far as Dusty was concerned. Dustin Rhodes started his WCW career off right, beating Buddy Landel in just over 6 minutes with his finisher, the Bulldog. Now, also at this time, you'll notice, especially on this show, WCW loves their short matches. They do love short matches on this show. But now let's turn to the biggest news story out of probably professional wrestling in 1991. Ric Flair leaves WCW. So on January 15th, 1991, Ric Flair beats Sting with his feet on the ropes to regain the NWA World Heavyweight Championship at the Omni in Atlanta. Flair was promised the title reign in return for bailing WCW out once again when he reluctantly agreed to play the part of the Black Scorpion, and the promise was made good on that night at the Omni. Ric Flair didn't have much time to rest on his laurels, though, as his first major title defense would come a mere 2 weeks later at the year's first Clash of the Champions show in Gainesville, Georgia, called Dixie Dynamite. The main event would feature Ric Flair fighting an epic 25-minute brawl with Scott Steiner. Scott Steiner was so gifted and so over at this point in his career that Ric Flair practically begged to give the world title to Scott Steiner. The idea was vetoed, thinking that Steiner wasn't quite ready. Now, I've heard different stories, though. I've heard that when they wanted to give Scott the title, he didn't want to take the title because of Rick. Because he asked, what would happen to Rick? It would leave Rick out in the cold, and he didn't want to do that to his brother.
Yeah.
Because there was a plan at one point to put the title on Rick.
Yeah.
I want to say was it Rick? Was it him instead of Ron Garvin or?
I think it was.
Yeah.
It was.
But it ended up still going to Ronnie Garvin. Steiner hit his finishing move to Frankensteiner just as time was expiring. They loved that finish. It's that Dusty finish, You know what the Dusty finish is, Matt?
I think I figured that
Yeah,
out
but
when we were watching the show earlier. I mean, when I should have watched the show last night.
Yeah, it's the most bullshit ending out there, especially when it's used over and over and over again. And WCW did like to keep everybody looking strong by doing a lot of double countouts, double disqualifications, and time limit draws, especially in the TV title division back then. If the match would have been 2 seconds later, Steiner would be the new champ. Flair hung on by a thread, and the live crowd went home very happy. March marked a big milestone for WCW, their first big joint venture with the New Japan Pro Wrestling. WCW and New Japan Pro Wrestling joined together to put on the highest grossing event in WCW history. Now, if I remembered that, I wouldn't have said Starrcade 90 was the one with New Japan. On March 21st, 91, the New Japan WCW Super Show brought almost 65,000 screaming fans to the Tokyo Egg Dome to witness the two federations clash in an event which gated well over $3 million. New rivalries were formed, old rivalries were revisited. Basically, you got Sting and Muta over there for that show. And the best of both federations had to offer met for all the marbles as WCW NWA champion Ric Flair challenged IWGP champion Tatsumi the Dragon Fujinami to a title versus title match. That couldn't end badly, right?
Not at all.
Yeah, no, there's no way that could possibly end badly. You know, some of the greatest wrestlers of all time. One of the greatest. Hello, hello. I believe we are joined by Jen.
Hey, what's up, Jenny?
How's it going?
So everything went off without a hitch as both federations dazzled the sold-out crowd with strong performances for nearly 4 hours, highlighted by the Steiner brothers winning the prestigious IWGP Tag Team Championship. Things quickly took a turn for the bizarre, though, as a hastily constructed finish to the main event sent legal shockwaves through New Japan, WCW, and the NWA. Gee, what could have happened? Ric Flair and Tatsumi Fujinami fought a brutally stiff 20-minute contest that saw the advantage switch sides on numerous occasions. At the 20-minute mark, things turned strange, though. Each federation had one of their own referees at ringside, with the primary referee being from New Japan, and the secondary referee being from WCW, the legendary Bill Alfonso. I don't know how many people realize that Bill Alfonso was a legitimate referee before he became the most annoying manager in the history of professional wrestling.
I'm not sure if he was the most annoying, but I'll give you pretty damn close.
I wanted to shove that mic down, that fucking whistle down his throat. So at the 21-minute mark, the U.S. referee was bumped as Fujinami rushed Ric Flair. Flair ducked, inadvertently knocking Fujinami over the top rope. The outside referee disqualified Flair for throwing Fujinami over the top rope, but the match continued. 1 minute later, Tatsumi cradled Ric Flair for a 3 count. And this is where things get complicated. While Ric Flair and WCW only used one belt, the WCW belt was still, in actuality, 2 separate titles, the WCW and NWA. WCW rules dictate a disqualification if an opponent is thrown over the top rope, but the NWA rules do not. Therefore, Fujinami had won the NWA title when he pinned Flair, but not the WCW title due to the disqualification, with the NWA board of directors officially recognizing Tatsumi Fujinami as the NWA champion, and WCW desperately wanted the prestige and history associated with the NWA belt back in their camp. So a Flair Fujinami rematch was hastily signed between New Japan and WCW for the inaugural Super Brawl in St. Petersburg. So the match would be under the jurisdiction of a WCW referee, and Jim Herd was certain that there was no way that Tatsumi Fujinami would return to Japan with the NWA title. So in the main event of Super Brawl 91, Ric Flair defeats Tatsumi Fujinami in a solid, if somewhat underwhelming matchup. After 60 days of turmoil, the NWA and the WCW titles were reunited once again. Sadly, the titles would be separated yet again in less than 2 months. Even sadder this time, the separation didn't last 60 days. It lasted forever. So, Clash of the Champions 15, Knoxville, USA. June 14th, 1991, from Knoxville, Tennessee. In the main event of Knoxville, USA, beautiful Bobby Eaton challenged Ric Flair to an old school 2 out of 3 falls match. Eaton held his own with Flair, which I will always say Bobby Eaton does not get the credit he deserves.
I agree with you there. Honestly, I really do.
He always gets the credit as a tag team wrestler, even though the Midnight Express are not in the Hall of Fame. But he never gets the credit for his single run, which lasted a very long time. But eventually, Bobby Eaton pinned Nature Boy with the roll up. After a 1-minute rest period, like we saw in the matches tonight, both men locked their horns for another 11 minutes, with Flair absolutely destroying the left knee of Eaton. Eaton's knee was in such disrepair that he couldn't even crawl back into the ring, thus resulting in a second fall countout victory in favor of Flair. The third and deciding fall saw Flair continue his absolute onslaught of Bobby Eaton's left knee. With 2 minutes left in the match, Eaton climbed to the top rope to deliver his finisher, the Alabama Jam, which of course was a top rope leg drop. The crowd was going crazy, but Eaton's knee just couldn't support him as he fell from the top rope, allowing Flair to pin him for the win. So, puts on a great match at Clash of the Champions. Let's flash back to 1988 real quick. The NWA was growing by the day, thanks in large part to one man and one man only, Ric Flair. Flair was seen as a can't-lose name and was given a large money contract with plenty of creative control to ensure that he wouldn't head for the greener pastures of Hartford, Connecticut. And in 1988, WWF was pretty much at its peak, honestly. February of 1988, we have Andre versus Hogan on the Friday. It was a Friday night's main event or main event show on Fox that literally is the highest rated, most watched professional wrestling show on television of all time. It's the match where Andre wins the belt because of what do you call it? The whole Hebner situation in that. But I digress. The terms of the contract was 3 years, and that was set to expire on June 15th, 1991. So the day after Clash of the Champions, June 15th, 1991, Ric Flair's contract was up, and Jim Herd let Flair know, in no uncertain terms, that his worth to the company was far from what it once was. Now, could you imagine somebody telling Flair that?
Bad idea.
Flair was informed that he would be taking a drastic cut in pay and that his creative control over his character would all but disappear. In early July 1991, the WCW opened contract negotiations with their then champion Ric Flair. Flair's contract at the time ran until June of 1992 and was worth between $700,000 and $750,000 per annum. The new deal offered to the champion was $350,000 and $250,000 over the next 2 years. So it's about $600,000 is what they offered him. Unsurprisingly, Flair told them to go fuck themselves. And in the July 14th, 1991 edition of the PW Torch newsletter, issue 129, Wade Keller reports that the WWF most likely will offer Flair a job, and if Flair accepts, it will appear to most fans that the WWF finally stole Ric Flair from WCW. In reality, they let him go as Sid Vicious was offered more money to stay in WCW and not jump to Titan, and Sid never, I don't know who quoted this, Sid never drew WCW consistent money. I disagree with that. Sid was pretty over. So the rejection of the offer led to WCW officials approaching Turner Home Entertainment to request to remove Flair from the scheduled Great American Bash 1991 main event against Lex Luger. Despite this, Flair was scheduled to appear at the Monday tapings ahead of the pay-per-view, where he would lose to Barry Windham, resulting in Windham defending against Luger the following Sunday. Here's the weird shit about WCW again in the 90s is they would record months in advance. Or not months, but like a month to weeks in advance, to where there would be title changes on their recordings for Saturday night, and then the team that lost would have to carry the titles until that episode aired. It happened quite often. However, on the morning of the tapings, Flair's lawyers were notified by the company that he was fired for not agreeing to contract negotiations and was stripped of the WCW title, although still, as would become quite the issue, was in possession of the belt. So, you get fired from a company, you're still in possession of the world title. What do you do? Well, Flair, along with the majority of the locker room, was pissed at the insulting offer. It was a slap to the face, of the man who had single-handedly carried the company on his back for years. Flair threatened to quit unless Jim Herd withdrew his insulting offer. Thus, the standoff began. 2 weeks later, the standoff would come to an end. July 1st, 1991. Jim Herd feels that he has no other choice but to fire Ric Flair, stripping him of the WCW title in the process. Although the NWA does not strip Flair of the NWA title. There's that confusion again with that whole WCW NWA title being the same thing from two different companies.
It's very confusing for years.
No on-air explanation is given, and Flair's absence isn't even acknowledged until just prior to the Great American Bash pay-per-view. So fast forward to Great American Bash, July 14th, 1991, with no Flair in sight, no replacement main event announced, no world title belt, because Flair owned the NWA Championship belt due to an old debt owed to him by Jim Crockett. So, back in those days, especially with the NWA, if you were given the title, you had to put down a donation, a deposit, like a $25,000 deposit. And then you got it back when you lost the belt. If you wanted to be champion, this way the NWA knows, WCW knows that they're going to get their belt back. Keep that in mind here in a minute, Matt. So basically, 7,000 angry diehard NWA fans ready to revolt in historically rich Baltimore, Maryland at the famed Baltimore Arena. Jim Herd was faced with what was far, far more dire than what could ever be referred to as worst case scenario. Jim Herd did not think that things could possibly get any worse. Little did he know that things were about to get 10 times worse. So we go to Baltimore. It's the Great American Bash. The lineup for the Great American Bash Tour's pay-per-view stop in Baltimore, Maryland was decent if unspectacular, even though Flair would no longer be main eventing the show against Lex Luger. With the excitement level left a lot to be desired, at least Jim Herd could count on his talent going out there busting their asses to make the show a success, right? Even without Flair.
In theory.
Little did he know, almost every single member of the WCW roster sympathized with Ric Flair and felt that Jim Herd had remorselessly slapped the man in the face who had bailed Herd out countless times in the past. So what do? They decided collectively, was that?
A strike.
Almost. Collectively, they decided that they were not going to just ignore it and play along with Jim Herd's bullshit games. The decision was made in protest of Ric Flair's firing. The talent would do everything in their power to make the show so terribly bad and boring that it would tell the man in charge exactly what they thought of his actions. What resulted was a Great American Bash event, which most insiders consider to be the absolute worst pay-per-view in wrestling history. The worst scaffold match in the history of scaffold matches opened up Bash 90. The normal rules of the match, dictate that the only way to win is to knock your opponent off. Fast forward to 2000 when in XPW with New Jack and Vic Grimes, and
Yeah.
New Jack throws him off the scaffold. He bounces off the fucking ropes, misses the tables completely. Then after the match, New Jack says, "Yeah, I was trying to fucking kill him."
Yep.
Jesus.
Yeah. That is technically how you win a match. One of the most famous scaffold matches in history, Starrcade 85, Road Warriors versus Midnight Express. Jim Cornette, scared of heights, falls off, and actually hurts himself.
Yeah.
Legitimately hurt himself falling from the scaffold. So that's definitely how you're supposed to win a match. While most scaffold matches were never really terribly exciting, which they really weren't. They were really just four guys scared of falling, fighting each other. That's essentially what most scaffold matches are. At least the crowd could always depend on a good old-fashioned fall, right? Well, the rules were slightly altered at this last second in this version of the match. Not only could you knock your opponent off the scaffold, but you could also win by capturing the flag. So Bobby Eaton and PN News. Let's talk about this fat fuck. Raz, what are your thoughts on PN News?
No, sir. I didn't like it.
Matt, this was your first time meeting PN News. What was your thoughts?
I'm sorry. I had to go run and Snippy. It felt important.
So which one was it? Which guy was this guy?
The fat fuck wannabe rapper. Yo, baby, yo, baby, yo.
Oh, buddy. Yeah, I heard that and then skipped a few seconds in the pay-per-view.
Yeah. Well, basically, it was PN News and Bobby Eaton, the most random fucking tag team of all time, versus Steve Austin and Terrence Taylor, in a match so bad that WCW would never again sanction a scaffold match. The match ended with Bobby Eaton, the most experienced scaffold wrestler in WWA history. Why would you do that?
I needed people to know what the fuck we were talking about, because if we had to be scarred by it,
God.
Put it back up.
This is one of his autographs. That's why I got this picture, because he actually did autographs. This guy.
I want everybody to look at this fat fuck. And imagine him teaming with one of the greatest tag team wrestlers of all time.
Dressed like that.
Dressed like this in a fucking onesie with yo baby, yo on it. Like, this was cringe.
Not many years later, we got John Cena doing the same thing.
Yeah, but I'm not gonna shit on John Cena. John Cena drew. A Nightmare is putting it nicely.
That's a new Nightmare.
Oh, man.
So basically, the match ended with Bobby Eaton, the most experienced scaffold wrestler in NWA WCW history, capturing the flag of Team Austin with not a single person falling from the scaffold. Needless to say, the crowd was quite upset about the late addition of the flag, which was never discussed on TV before the match. That's another thing WCW liked to do. And we'll talk about it when we get to the Chamber of Death match, which is up first on Halloween Havoc. That shit changed so many times before the match. Nobody knew what it was. Nobody knew what was supposed to happen. And then that happened. Sorry, I had to clear my throat there for a second. Next up was a match that was terrible in every sense of the word. A 6-man elimination match between Dustin Rhodes, the Young Pistols, and the Fabulous Freebirds. What this person wrote was the only thing worth noting about this match is the fact that only one man survived the terrible 6-man elimination match. And take a guess who that was.
Dustin Rhodes.
Dustin's big card record now was 4-0. 8 more matches followed. Now, 10 matches on this card. But 8 more matches followed, each seemingly worse than the one before it. Matches were all but phoned in from world-class stars like Sting, Brian Pillman, Nikita Koloff, the Rock and Roll Express, Tom Zink, with literally every single match lingering at or around the fabled dud status. Now, even on this show, I believe this is the show where we actually got the Rock and Roll Express fighting each other, because Ricky Morton had turned heel. And we had Richard Morton with the York Foundation versus Robert Gibson. Much as I like Robert Gibson, I think it's safe to say he is the Marty Jannetty of the Rock and Roll Express. And Tom Zink, like I said, the crowd grew increasingly more and more pissed at each match as each match progressed. And unlike the wrestlers, the crowd didn't even bother to pretend like they were at least half-assing their efforts. We saw that a lot with this show too. From the second the bash started until minutes before the main event, you literally could hear a pin drop in what was usually one of the most raucous arenas in NWA history. So the main event was set to begin. The crowd suddenly comes alive as the main event of Lex Luger against Barry Windham was about to begin. The crowd jumped up to their feet and exploded with loud, riotous chants of "We want Flair." In the place of Ric Flair, Jim Herd inserted Barry Windham, even further pissing off the crowd. At this point of his career, I mean, Barry Windham really wasn't even a U.S. title contender. I mean, he really wasn't. He was there, let alone world champion contender. So for 10 minutes, Lex Luger and Barry Windham fought a random, emotionless match. What was obviously just kind of made up for the hell of it as they went along.
Yep.
I think there was a lot of Luger's. Let's not pretend Luger's one of the best wrestlers of all times.
Let's not pretend he was ever good.
No, he was over as hell, though. At certain points in his career, he was over as hell, but he was fucking terrible.
Yeah, I never, ever understood why he was over at all. I never understood it growing up.
I think especially in WWF, everybody was desperate for a new Hulk Hogan. That's, how he got him in WWF.
I mean, he did do better in WWF, in my opinion. I did like him a little bit more, but like,
I can tell you why you started hating him in WWF, because he didn't win at SummerSlam. He didn't beat Yokozuna. Like, he should have beat Yokozuna at SummerSlam and had a
that's true
decent title run.
But I also really like Yokozuna.
Yeah, Yoko was for a big man. Yoko was pretty good.
He was great, and I thought he was well serviced by the feud with the Undertaker. I thought that was a fantastic
yes feud. But basically, the crowd could care less, barely making any noise during the match, aside from "We want Flair." After 10 minutes, Harley Race made his way down to the ring with Mr. Hughes. Everybody remembers Mr. Hughes. Nobody remembers why Mr. Hughes.
Yeah.
Cackling to Luger that now was the time. Luger pile drove Windham, scored the pin, and took the World Heavyweight belt, which in actuality was nothing more than an old defunct title belt, which was basically spray painted into a new WCW title belt. If I remember, I think it was an old tag team title. Apparently, Luger was now a heel, although the whole heel turn made absolutely no sense and had to be intricately explained a few nights later on WCW Saturday Night. Oh, well, it's only fitting that this terrible slap to the face of every WCW fan on the face of the planet ends with a match that goes ahead and bitch slaps them again while they're still reeling from the original bitch slap. But wait! Guess what? Luger and Windham... Go ahead.
But wait, there's more.
Yes, because Lex Luger and Barry Windham for the world title wasn't the main event of that show.
No.
Just when you thought WCW couldn't possibly dole out another bitch slap, we find out there's still one more left in their tank. 4 months, WCW had been building a Paul E. Dangerous feud with fucking Missy Hyatt.
Yep.
Matt, do you remember Sonny Tammy Sitch?
Yes.
Before pre-prison?
Yeah,
do you remember what Sonny is really known for backstage? Everyone. Yes.
Yeah.
Let me introduce you to Missy Hyatt, who is Sonny times a million.
Whoa.
Yeah. So this feud was set to come to an end at the Great American Bash when Missy Hyatt and Rick Steiner met Arn Anderson and Paulie Dangerously in a cage match to settle the score. Missy Hyatt, the sexpot starlet of WCW at the time, was the one person who could send the crowd home happy after this bullshit disguised as a pay-per-view, right? If nothing else, a little TNA would liven them up. So Arn Anderson and Paulie Dangerously make their way to the cage, ready for a wild brawl to settle matters once and for all. The pissed off Baltimore crowd comes to its feet to get a glimpse of the Madonna of professional wrestling, Missy Hyatt. Raz, what happened next?
Really stupid shit. Just unbelievably just ignorant. There's so many adjectives I could use, but like I feel like that would also be a waste of my time.
A mere 3 seconds after coming through the curtain, the Hardliners, a new low-card WCW tag team, emerged from backstage and kidnap Missy Hyatt.
Yep. Why? No reason. Literally, no.
Yeah. The Hardliners, they had no beef with Missy at the time, and the move was never explained to the fans at any later date. Missy was just taken 3 seconds after emerging and never came back. The crowd grew even more pissed as the match was hastily ended and the broadcast faded to black, putting to rest the biggest waste of $30 in American wrestling history. As for Flair, well, he was still officially recognized as the NWA champion, as the WCW only had the power to strip him of their belt. Flair owned the big gold belt that he wore as WCW, thus remains the NWA champion. It meant he could wrestle in independent territories or in Japan as the NWA champion.
Mhm.
What with the NWA still have some name value at the time. 1 second.
One.
Yep. Issue 131 of the PW Torch carries quotes from an interview WCW spokesman Barry Norman made with a San Antonio newspaper ahead of the Great American Bash. He said that the loss of Scott Steiner due to injury was a greater loss than Flair. Furthermore, due to it being illegal for the WCW not to honor Flair his original contract because he refused a pay cut, WCW had to reoffer him his original contract worth approximately $750,000. Flair signed with the WWF in the August of 1991 and began appearing on television with the big gold belt, calling himself the real world heavyweight champion. I still remember the day Bobby Heenan shows up with the belt on a stand. It was Saturday. It was Monday. It was primetime wrestling. Bobby Heenan is there with the belt, and you're like, wow, wait a minute. That belt looks familiar. And then the very next week, Ric Flair walks out. It blew 13-year-old Steven's mind that Ric Flair was now with WWF. And the only thought, holy shit, we're getting Flair and Hogan. We're getting Flair and Hogan. We're getting Flair and Hogan. Spoiler alert, we never got Flair versus Hogan. Not until WCW. The original plan for WrestleMania 8.
You mean for WWF?
Yes. For WrestleMania 8, the original plan was supposed to be Flair and Hogan. For whatever reason, they changed it to Flair and Savage and then Hogan versus Sid.
Yep.
Which, whenever we talk about that or that Royal Rumble 92, I have opinions on that thing. I think Hogan was the bad guy the entire time. I think Sid was the face and Hogan was the heel. Because, yeah. So WCW sues Flair in an attempt to reclaim the belt, but Flair claimed that he owned the belt in lieu of the $25,000 deposit paid by NWA champions upon winning the title, which had not been returned to him when he was fired from WCW. Some may say that Scott Hall and Kevin Nash showing up on Nitro was the single most shocking moment in professional history. I would 100% disagree.
Yeah,
because
it was shocking at all. If you read the cards right, it's kind of obvious.
I mean, it was still a big shock. Don't get me wrong. You know, Lex Luger showing up on the first episode of Nitro at the very end, big shock. But again, 1991 Steven didn't think Flair would ever go to WWF. But when I was watching Super WWF Superstars on Saturday morning as a kid, it was a normal Saturday morning fare on Superstars. You know, a bunch of shitty jobber matches that Vince had me brainwashed into thinking meant something, along with a prestigious main event. Believe it or not, Vince isn't half bad. Every week he'd give away a pay-per-view caliber match for free on television, usually involving Jim Powers, Boris Zukov, Hillbilly Jim, or Hercules. Anyway, something happened on this edition of WWF Superstars that shocked me like nothing else. I turned on the TV to see Bobby Heenan knocking on someone's door. You figure it was the Warlord or Rick Martel or something hokey like the WWF always did. You know, because they used to do kind of cheesy shit like that all the time, you know. Whereas this guy, Chris, has said hi to his mom for you.
Yay.
But to everyone's absolute shock, the man who opened the door was none other than the Nature Boy himself, Ric Flair. And he had the NWA title draped around his shoulder and let out his trademark, "Woo!"
He did.
Here in front of me, the very man who defined the NWA WCW was standing next to Bobby the Brain Heenan on WWF television, and it was surreal. It really was. It was like shocking. He would go on to claim that he was the real world's champion, proudly toting the NWA title belt around on WWF television for the next couple of weeks. September 9th, 1991, the end of an era. The NWA holds an emergency meeting after seeing Ric Flair flaunting the NWA title belt on WWF television. So since the WWF was not a member of the NWA, and thus had no claim to its championship, sadly, the NWA felt as if they had no other choice but to do the unthinkable and strip Ric Flair of the NWA title. For the first time in almost 50 years, the NWA title was vacant. The NWA quickly sued the WWF for use of the NWA likeness, the belt. Ric Flair sold the title belt back to the NWA for a hefty profit. None of the lawsuits ever saw the light of a courtroom, and WCW continued to flounder without the presence of the Nature Boy. So, Matt.
Yes, sir.
Thoughts on what's going on with Ric Flair in 1991, showing up on that's what I wanted. Showing up in WWF with another company's belt.
See, that's never happened in my lifetime, I don't think. But I bet seeing that at your age when you're younger, it probably rocked your world. Because I couldn't imagine seeing like a Cody Rhodes or Bryan Danielson going to WWE or AEW with that belt like right now. It would completely astonish me just knowing the repercussions that would happen after that.
And you also got to add into the fact that in 1991 we didn't have the internet, we didn't have the spoiler alerts. You know, we couldn't get online and read about whose contract's coming up, who's leaving, who's going, you know.
Oh yeah.
This shit happened all the time, don't get me wrong. Like Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard show up in WWF. I'm like, okay, here we go. Because I'm not gonna lie, Arn Anderson is one of my favorite wrestlers of all time.
Yeah. And the closest thing to my generation of wrestling to kind of the Ric Flair thing was the CM Punk running away with the title. That was amazing.
Raz, what are your thoughts from Ric Flair in 1991 running away with the belt to WWF?
I think it was hilarious, guys. Listen, I'm not a Richard. I'm not a Ric Flair guy. I've never really liked Ric Flair. I never really gave a shit about Ric Flair. I'll never give a shit about Ric Flair. Is he an important part of this industry? Yes. Was he a great wrestler? Debatable. Was he also a huge moron in many situations? Definitely.
But alcohol sucks.
Yeah, exactly. And that's, what a lot of it was, I feel care for the guy. But that was the traditional Ric Flair move. Just like hiding under a ring corner in the Royal Rumble and winning. You know what I mean? Like, it's just shit that Ric Flair does. It's hilarious.
I don't know. I still think Royal Rumble 92 is one of the greatest Rumbles of all time. But a lot of that has to do with Bobby Heenan's commentary too, with Royal Rumble 92. That I think is what helps make it one of the best ones of all time, and for me at least, because watching like Bobby Heenan freak the fuck out every time Flair's about to get thrown over the top rope just was hilarious to me as a kid.
I'll call back on the top of the rope thing.
Hmm?
When I was watching the show and I saw that somebody got disqualified for going over the top ropes, that was the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life, because I had no idea that used to be a thing at all.
For a long time, like in World Class, it was like a lot of the NWA territories. It was.
Did they give a reason behind it? But like,
no, like when do we ever get to a show with Bill Watts? And Bill Watts made a rule you can't jump off the top rope, because Bill Watts was on the level of Ole Anderson on wanting to keep everything old school.
Yeah.
Did you have something, Raz? You look a little shocked there.
No, sorry. I got a message that confused me. I apologize.
No, that's fine. So that's what's going on in 1991 WCW. The turmoil in the backstage area. Shit's not going right. Jim Herd would be out of WCW by early 92. And I believe that's when Bill Watts comes in. So right now, let's go ahead and take our ad break. When we come back, live from Chattanooga, Tennessee, Halloween Havoc 1991. We'll see you in a minute.
Greetings and shabibans. We are the Retro Reductopus Cephala Podcast, a long-form bi-weekly show that celebrates all the things that made growing up awesome.
Yeah, that sounds good, but I don't know what all those words mean.
I think what Parasite seems trying to say is that on Retro Reductopus, we explore a range of retro goodness, from toys, video games, and movies, to cartoons, and even snacks and school lunches.
Oh.
And we do it all with a positive spin, a slew of killer guests, and some very adult language.
And you know what else is cool?
No.
This crazy show is part of the Door King Podcast Network with new episodes every Tentacle Tuesday.
What's that?
And if waiting 2 weeks for a new episode gives you a sad, know that we drop bonus episodes all the time, like the off-format Crow's Nest and an interview series we call The Brig.
You can listen to Retro Reductopus on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or any app that's cool enough to carry the only show that celebrates all the things that make growing up awesome.
And we're back. Well, two of us are back. I think Raz had to step off for a second, so he'll be back in a moment. But Matt, are you ready for this?
Yes. Yes, I am.
Are you sure? With everything else going on in 91, are you sure about this?
Well, before we get into the show, I will say, watching it for the first time, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be.
Okay, well, we'll get the reviews on that at the end. Like
Oh, yeah.
what's your favorite match and stuff like that. But go ahead, what you were saying.
Oh, no. I gotta save that for the review.
Okay. All right. Well, basically, we are live from Chattanooga, Tennessee, the UTC Arena in Chattanooga, University of Tennessee, Chattanooga Arena. It's packed. The crowd's pretty loud for most of the show. There's some shit that they obviously don't care about, but I apologize if you hear any other extra sound on me. I got a cough drop in to try to loosen up my throat, if you will. But the show opens with the iconic Halloween Havoc logo as Jim Ross welcomes us inside the UTC Arena in Chattanooga, Tennessee. We have 11 matches. Yes, 11 matches. This show doesn't even last 3 hours, but there are 11 matches. And 4 of them are championship matches. Now, we get this wide shot, and there's a weird-looking cage surrounding the ring. And JR tells us that for the first time in WCW history, the World Championship will be decided in a 2 out of 3 falls match. Well, that's a lie, because in the beginning of this show, we discussed how Ric Flair defended the World Championship in a 2 out of 3 falls match against Bobby Eaton. So already, they are not telling the truth. JR then brings in his broadcast partner, Tony Schiavone. I don't think Tony Schiavone has ever looked happy to be doing announcing on a wrestling show. Like, even now, doesn't he seem like just a grumpy ass man?
Yeah.
Like, I know him and Bobby Heenan hated each other. And Bobby made it his mission to make Schiavone break character at least once an episode. But they did not like each other. I don't really think JR and Tony like each other, honestly. But they hype up this show as we get the announcement and video of Barry Windham being attacked in the parking lot. So we cut to the video, and we have Eric Bischoff standing in the parking lot in a tuxedo, waiting to interview wrestlers as they arrive. Yeah, Eric Bischoff in a fucking tuxedo in the parking lot in the middle of Tennessee.
Yeah.
Yeah, you didn't have to try so hard, Eric.
No, you didn't.
The first to arrive is Cactus Jack and Abdullah the Butcher, which watching Abdullah the Butcher get out of a car in a suit
Yeah.
was the wildest fucking thing and the last thing I'd expect to see at Halloween Havoc. Like, I know everybody's wearing costumes, but Abdullah trying to look like a regular person?
That was his costume.
Yeah, like and you're talking just like a white shirt and a dad tie too. So Cactus gets out of the car and immediately shoots Bischoff dead with finger guns. So Eric Bischoff is dead for the rest of the show. He's been shot by Cactus Jack and his finger guns. And I wrote down, we are just going to ignore that Abdullah goes against his entire gimmick showing up in a shirt and tie. They make Bischoff feel very uncomfortable, though, before heading off. Bischoff also comments on possibly finding out the identity of the WCW Phantom as another reason he's in the parking lot. Another vehicle pulls up, and this time it's the Diamond Stud with DDP. And so far, we have 3 members of the heel team in the chamber arrive. After them, Dustin Rhodes and Barry Windham arrive at the arena. And then Arn Anderson and Larry Zbyszko come out of nowhere and just slam Barry's arm in the car door, potentially breaking it. It's the Horsemen all over again. Yeah, it's the Horsemen all over again. That's how the Horsemen actually formed, was attacking Dusty Rhodes in the parking lot and breaking his leg. Dustin chases the enforcers away and pushes Barry into the car to go get some medical help. We cut back to the arena and pan through the crowd to the cage. All right, so this cage looks eerily familiar to the cage that was at last year's Halloween Havoc. Halloween Havoc 1990, where it was Ric Flair and Sting versus Terry Funk and the Great Muta. That cage caught on fire in the arena because it was supposed to be electrified, but being an electrified cage, they also had Halloween decorations hanging off of it, burlap sacks and everything. One of the burlap sacks touches the electrified part and catches on fire. Muta has to climb and use his mist to put the fire out. Just another day in WCW. So how did we get here, you may ask? During his 86-day run with the United States Heavyweight Championship, Sting had a blood feud with Cactus Jack over the summer. By the end of the summer of 1991, they'd have a higher profile encounter at June 1992's Bash at the Beach, or Beach Blast, which becomes Bash at the Beach pay-per-view. That match ended up being, I think, the write-off to the feud, and it was a Falls Count Anywhere match for, like, I can't remember. I don't think it was for a title. I think it was just them fighting. But during this initial rivalry, Jack introduced some backup when he gave Sting a birthday present in the form of a giant gift-wrapped box that contained the infamous Abdullah the Butcher. With a legitimate innovator of pro wrestling violence involved, WCW opted to innovate its own violent match type in the Chamber of Horrors. Now, here's the funny thing. The heel team, that wasn't the original heel team. The original heel team was supposed to be, and I don't have it written down anywhere, damn it. Barry Windham was supposed to be on the heel team, as well as the one-man gang. One-man gang gets fired. Barry Windham, they're doing something different with him. So that's when they put Vader and the Diamond Stud in. And because the Diamond Stud makes no fucking sense being on the heel team.
No.
The Diamond Stud, of course, would go on to be Scott Hall, Razor Ramon, all that good stuff. So our ring announcer is one of my favorites, Gary Michael Capetta, with his nasally voice, welcomes the live crowd to Halloween Havoc and reads us the rules of the match. Did you understand the rules of the match when they first started? Don't worry if you didn't. Nobody did.
I was about to say, the only thing I gathered was put someone in chair, set off lever, boom.
Yes. Basically, electrocute your opponent.
Yeah.
So the first contest of Halloween, basically, let me see if I can even do his voice now. The first contest of Halloween Havoc from Chattanooga, Tennessee, in the Chamber of Horrors. This special attraction. I can't do it right now with my throat being the way it is.
It was pretty good though.
Oh, I used to love copying Gary Michael Capetta. Him and the Fink. I could always do the Fink's voice perfectly. But this special attraction will involve 2 teams, each team consisting of 4 team members. The match will be confined to the Chamber of Horrors, which is equipped with several instruments of torture and a bunch of other shit they never explained. We'll get to that. So the object of the match is to put a member of the opposing team in the Chamber of Horrors chair of torture and then pull the fatal lever, which will render one of the teammates helpless. Now the participants in our electrifying first contest. One second. Ugh. It's like the onset of the cold, or the sinuses where it's just starting, your throat's just starting to hurt and you're just getting that cold. I hate that. Well, what he didn't tell us was that the electric chair would drop in after the original 5 minutes, the first 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So we see a really awesome set. That's what Halloween Havoc is known for, is the awesome, intricate sets that WCW used to do for this show. So we get some generic music, and we get the first entrance, first out from Argentina, 7'7" El Gigante. He gets a decent pop, but let's face it, this guy was fucking awful.
Yeah.
The only memorable thing El Gigante ever did was wrestling Undertaker in a casket match at WrestleMania 9.
Yeah, and trying to kill him with was it chloroform?
Possibly. There was a lot of killing going on in WWF at the time. We had Papa Shango and trying to kill the Ultimate Warrior, and yeah. So the entrants are coming out of the door to a haunted house beside, which is really cool, honestly.
Yeah, it is cool. It was pretty cool.
Spoiler alert, that doesn't stay down the entire show. So Vader comes out in that awesome. I used to love that fucking Mastodon helmet when he came out with it. He would set it on the it was, dude. That thing was awesome. He used to set it on the ring steps, do his thing like where he raised his hand, like arms in the air, and it would like blow the steam out, and it would look fucking badass because Vader was a badass. We can clearly see one of the stagehands reach out and close the door. Big Van Vader is, of course, next. The smoke goes off out of the helmet, and it's still amazing. The Diamond Stun enters next. Vader shakes the cage. And it's here I noticed that the cage is surrounding the ring Hell in a Cell style. Welcome back, Raz.
Thank you. Sorry about that. There was a minor emergency.
Oh, you're fine. We're just talking. We're just doing the introductions to the Cage at Chamber of Horrors match. Also, I also notice one face has come out, like El Gigante has come out, and then 2 heels.
Yeah.
And the heels are not attacking El Gigante. And this is supposed to be a blood feud style right to feud off match. Why else would you have to try to electrocute your opponent?
Yeah.
Out next is yet another heel from Truth or Consequences, New Mexico. Here comes Cactus Jack with a fucking chainsaw.
That shit killed me, dude.
This is how you know it's the 90s. It was still okay to come out with a fucking chainsaw.
Thank you, Chainsaw Charlie.
Yes. I don't know. Joe Hendry did come out with a chainsaw last week at Bound for Glory. So
yeah, but
Foley looking bad. Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say no one is cool doing it in this Chainsaw Charlie though.
No. But Foley comes out looking badass, and I can't help but to mention again that it's 3 heels versus 1 face, and nobody is attacking the face. Finally, we even the odds as Rick and Scott, the Steiner brothers, enter the ring. Next out is the final member from Team 2 from the Sudan, Abdullah the Butcher. Now, as we were talking a minute ago, how Abdullah the Butcher's costume at the beginning of the show when he was getting out of the car was a shirt and fucking tie.
Yeah.
Which to me was the funniest thing ever, seeing Abdullah the Butcher dressed like a dad.
Yep. It was super, super odd because this is the guy that would like, man, he would do photos like where he was munching on like raw meat and shit back in the day. Like it was insane the shit that this man would do. Covered in blood. I mean, and to see him in that shirt, that whole thing was it was a shock to me.
I mean, this is also the guy whose favorite weapon was a fork. So
yes,
yeah,
the fork and the cane.
Yes, but finally coming out, the final entrant for Team 1, and the music changes because only Sting can have his own music. Only Sting. The United States champion comes out, and before the match starts, Cactus is outside of the ring fighting with Sting. Abdullah is standing there as well, as we see inside the ring Vader and El Gigante going at it. Diamond, Stud, and Scott have locked up. Rick has exited the cage to battle with Abdullah. As inside the ring, we almost miss it as we have a wide shot of all the action. Scott hits Stud with a perfect double underhook sit-out powerbomb. Again, this is why I love the Steiner brothers. You might not want to go for the suplex or the powerbomb. You're fucking going, whether you cooperate or not. JR says there are very interesting rules to this one. I'm still trying to figure them out. But Tony essentially says, what rules? On the stage, Rick Steiner has the fucking chainsaw. But he can't get it started. All 8 men have finally entered the cage as Sting starts whacking everyone over the head with Abdullah's staff. We get some shots from what JR calls the referee, POV shot from the referee, basically. It's Nick Patrick wearing what looks, and I don't want to sound too bad, but it looks like what you would put on a special needs kid to prevent him from running headfirst into a fucking wall.
Yep.
You know, that's exactly what the helmet looks like. Exactly. Plus it's Nick Patrick, so he kind of deserves it. For those who don't realize, I am not a Nick Patrick fan. I think Nick Patrick is one of the worst referees in the history of the business. As a coffin on the outside is knocked over, and there's a fucking guy in the casket. They never tell us who the guy is. They never tell us why he's there. There is just some fucking guy in a casket in the middle of the match. So Scott, being Scott on his roid rage rampage, naturally just starts beating the shit out of him for no reason.
At all.
And I wrote, for God's sake, get off this shot. Scott slams the masked man onto the casket, as in the ring it's just random chaos. Like this, it's so hard to keep track of this match.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Stud is wailing on Sting, so Vader pushes him out of the way so he can beat on Sting some.
Yep.
Gigante pairs up with Stud and gives him some weak ass shots because fuck El Gigante. They go outside where Stud is trying to climb the cage, but gets caught by El Gigante. And on the other side, Rick has also climbed the cage for no reason whatsoever because there's nobody there.
Because it was fun.
Because he's Rick Steiner. That's why he did it.
Yep.
Let's just call him Stuart. Look what I can do. Look what I can do.
Rick sees nobody to go after, so he just climbs down.
That shit was so funny.
Oops, my bad. Haha.
Sting starts to come back and drop kicks Vader over the top and then does a plancha down on top of him. Rick gets Cactus up on his shoulder as Scott climbs the ropes. The chair is coming down as this is happening. Scott hits a top rope DDT off of Rick's shoulders to Cactus Jack, as Cactus Jack is laying right where the chair is coming down. Rick starts to pull on it to make it come down faster to crush and kill Mick Foley. Foley sees the cage and gets out of the way just in time. Everyone stands around staring at... Go ahead.
For once.
Yeah. Everyone just stands around staring at the new cage with the chair of torture as they now realize just how much of the ring this fucking thing is taking up. I really don't think they told the rules of this match to anybody.
No, certainly not each other.
No, like there was so much confusion. We hear some ominous music as the guys brawl around the ring. Around this ridiculous thing is what I wrote. Vader gets Rick into the chair, but nobody is by the lever, so it cannot be pulled. Rick starts punching Vader before nailing it with the Steiner line, sending him over the top. Not a disqualification, but this is a no DQ match. We cut over to Sting and Jack fighting on the outside. Sting nails Jack with the coffin lid. He just fucking, like, literally just tosses it up in the air and it falls and just bonks Cactus Jack on the head.
That was some great accuracy.
It was pretty funny, too. I don't know, honestly. Just dose it up and go, here you go. Bonk. Rick is climbing the cage again. But this time Vader's down there, so he jumps and dives onto Vader. But the announcers don't call it out because for some fucking reason, we have 8 guys in white scrubs bringing out a stretcher.
Yeah.
Again, never told us why.
Nope, no reason.
Tony asks if these are the ghouls. What fucking ghouls? You never mentioned ghouls. And now it just gets even more ridiculous. Gigante is the only one in the ring as the other 7 are fighting around it, and El Gigante he's just trying to pull somebody in the ring to fight. He's trying to pull Diamond Stud into the ring, and everyone's like, no, fuck you, asshole. And they're just fighting on the outside. Now Abdullah, his big ass is climbing the cage. As we go back to the ref camera where we see Diamond Stud laying on one of the coffins while Sting standing over him, and the random mask guy is holding a stick. Now, also, I don't know if this is the point or later on. At one point, why is the fucking mask guy handcuffed to the cage?
Yeah.
Like,
The ghouls were trying to get him out. It just didn't work.
Why was he there to begin with?
Yep. Now, has Matt yet realized who El Gigante is?
Yeah, Giant Gonzalez.
Okay, I just want to double check because we've talked a lot about him in reference to Undertaker in the past. Okay.
I will say, for the talent that was in this match, holy shit, it sucked.
Yeah.
They could have did so much more.
Oh yeah, it was every bit as gripping as the Halloween Phantom.
Yes. But Cactus and Rick have linked up as Vader nails Scott with the broomstick, who no-sells and just starts whacking Vader with the stick. We now see Gigante trying to pull Abdullah off the cage. Like, Abdullah's big ass is still holding on to the side of the cage. Like, I'm impressed that he was able to climb it, let alone hold on to it that long.
It was the anchor.
Yes, we see Cactus just beneath him, and he's busted open. Scott leans over and Scott leans over and hits Cactus about as hard as he could, breaking the fucking stick over Mrs. Foley's baby boy's head. Vader has the stick again, and he's whacking Gigante with it. And that's about the only thing you can say is they're whacking each other with the stick. They're not really doing anything else with it.
Jeremy.
Hello.
Jeremy.
All that whacking, I'll tell you what.
Now Sting and Cactus are on the other side of the cage. Sting slams his head into the cage as Cactus is hung up by his leg. We pan over, and for some reason, here it is. For some reason, the fucking mask guy is now handcuffed to the cage. Again, we don't know who this guy is, why he's in there, what his purpose is, or why he is handcuffed. Scott and Abdullah are now on the side of the cage as Sting pulls Cactus into the ring. Sting throws Cactus against the ropes, and Cactus goes over. Like, they're literally just finding random shit to do to try to get this match over. Carnage is everywhere as Stud gets Sting into the chair before Scott can save him. Scott has a chain and wraps it around Stud's throat as Gigante lays into Stud. And we did also talk about who Diamond Stud goes on to be as well. Sting is choking out Abdullah, who is also now busted open because, somebody flicked him in the head with a finger. There is so much going on, it's hard to focus on one thing. And it really does look like Stud wants nothing to do with Gigante. As he climbs into the ring, Gigante follows, and Stud goes, "Nope, you know what? I'm going to get out of the ring now."
He did.
Abdullah is choking out Sting with the broken stick. The mask guy is just standing there doing absolutely nothing. We focus on the ghouls again for reasons. Rick is whacking Abdullah with another stick. Stud almost has Scott in the chair as Cactus climbs the cage to hit the switch. Now, the switch is literally at the top of the cage almost. It is not in a convenient area at all. Rick saves his brother and Sting pulls Cactus down. Vader is looking for someone to hit and finds Gigante. Rick and Abdullah are near the front as Stud starts whacking Rick with the stick. They get Rick into the chair, but he's saved by Scott and Gigante. We get more random fucking brawling between Rick and Abdullah as they get Rick into the chair. Cactus has climbed the cage again by the switch, and he's shooting off his finger guns again. Yeah, by the way, we did mention how Cactus Jack killed Eric Bischoff with the finger guns getting out of the car.
Yep.
Rest in peace, Eric Bischoff. Abdullah is choking Rick in the chair, but Rick grabs Abdullah and kind of belly-to-belly suplexes him into the chair, and he's strapping Abdullah up. Apparently Cactus is none the wiser. Pulls the switch, thinking Rick was still in the chair, and a ton of pyro goes off, and as Abdullah is electrocuted in the chair, the mat is on fire. Stud and Vader look on, wondering what happened, as do the rest of us. And Abdullah the Butcher is dead, apparently.
Dead. Electrocution. Never seen again.
So the winners of the match are Sting, El Gigante, and the Steiner brothers via electrocution, 12 minutes and 33 seconds. After the match, Cactus is checking on Abdullah and tries to wake him up. Abdullah wakes up and shoulder blocks Cactus, kicks at the ring crew trying to set the ramp back up, and starts fighting the ghouls. They literally just start beating the shit out of the ghouls for no reason. Yeah. Tony says he opened his eyes and thought he was in heaven and he knew he shouldn't be there. I laughed at that one, I'm not going to lie. Abdullah beats up on the ghouls some more as a bloody Cactus Jack and Abdullah the Butcher make their ways back up the ramp. I think we already know everybody's thoughts. Raz, what are your thoughts on the match?
Oh, shit, man. I love the electrocution angle. This made me laugh as a child, and it made me laugh even harder and also cringe and cry as an adult. This was an example of WCW trying to pull out all the stops with more of their insane bullshit, and as usual, failing fucking terribly. But
yes,
this whole pay-per-view is full of some of their biggest fucking failures of all time. The whole pay-per-view. So this match went about as you'd expect.
I think it's the whole year. The whole year is just... Yeah. Matt, what are your thoughts on the match? The Chamber of Horrors. As a first-time viewer.
It was pretty bad. The thing that irks me the most about this match is that Cactus Jack, this whole time he's at the lever, can obviously fucking see Rick Steiner put Abdul the Butcher in that thing.
No, sir, there was blood in his eyes.
Yes, he was looking into the crowd and shooting people with his finger guns. Okay,
he was busy. There was blood. There was finger guns happening. He was excited.
There were ghouls.
Oh shit! My bad.
Dude, he fucking held it right over there for at least 3 minutes.
Bang bang.
Now, there's also a love-hate relationship between Cactus Jack and Abdullah the Butcher that comes to fruition the next month when Cactus Jack is teaming with somebody else and Abdullah gets pissed off about it and beats the shit out of his tag team partner and then starts fighting with Cactus Jack.
After presumably coming back from the dead somehow.
Yes. Well, he just came back from the dead and killed the ghouls. You know.
Was the thing. He developed
yeah,
their souls and got their power. Resurrected.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, that sounds like some cheesy ass shit WCW would say.
But this was just cheesy. The one thing on here that was meant to be Halloween, we also discussed, Raz, I don't know if you noticed, the really awesome Halloween backdrop they had, the haunted house backdrop where they opened the doors and people could walk out of the haunted house.
Yeah.
Did you notice that it was gone by the second match or after the second match?
I sure did.
That kind of pissed me off a little bit. That looked awesome.
It did. It looked too awesome for WCW, and someone was like, "Oh, we can't have this. Sorry, it looks too good. Take it down."
Nothing.
I mean, it's not the Halloween Havoc '96 set, but still.
Yeah, nothing ever will be.
No, that was like the best set they've done. I wish and that's the one thing I wish WWF and Triple H would go back to is give us some new fucking sets. Don't give the same shit every time.
I mean, that's a lost art though, because WWE used to do that back in the day, and tournaments and shit. And we still get that for like the big pay-per-views, do it within reason. But like, that was a lot.
Hunters together and have them prepare Halloween Havoc.
Yes.
And in my personal opinion, though, the best ever Havoc though was '98.
Was which one?
'98.
98.
Yeah.
What was the main event of that one?
It doesn't matter because that was the first time.
Is that Ultimate Warrior?
It doesn't matter who was in it. That was the first time that Chucky hosted from Child's Play hosted.
Oh, we get with the Chucky versus Rick Steiner feud.
And not a lot of people realize this, but in 2021, Chucky came back to Halloween Havoc in NXT.
And feuded and kind of got into it with Braun Breaker.
Yep.
So, all right. Well, we come back to JR and Tony discussing. It kind of was weird too watching it on Peacock. It's like they were almost like they were cutting shit out almost.
I feel like they did. So
we come back to JR and Tony discussing the events of the prior match, and we can see behind them the ghouls being helped up by behind the commentators. They introduce us to the backstage announcers, Eric Bischoff, who is now dressed as Dracula because, again, Mick Foley killed him.
Yeah.
Mick Foley killed him and a vampire bit him, so now he's Dracula. And Missy Hyatt, I put down that she was a flapper. I really don't know what she was. I mean, she was a slut, but other than that.
Sorry.
Bischoff does a terrible Dracula impression as they talk about the mystery behind the WCW Phantom.
I think you pronounced his name incorrectly. His name is Eric Bischoff.
Eric Bischoff. Ah.
What I've always said.
I want to talk blood.
Well, Missy says she's found out the identity of the man behind the mask because back in the 90s, if you wore a mask, it was, who the fuck are you? Why are you wearing a mask? Same with the 80s too. In the 80s, we're like, oh, he's wearing a mask because he's ugly. But Eric basically doesn't believe her. He flat out calls her a liar. And she says, well, now I won't tell you because I don't like you. Then for some reason, the Young Pistols walk into frame. This is Tracy Smothers and Steve Armstrong. And Eric decides to ask them who the WCW Phantom is. And Tracy tells Eric they really don't give a shit who the Phantom is because they've challenged the Patriots for the U.S. tag titles.
Big
and
title.
Tracy, yeah, what was that?
It's a big title.
Now, the U.S. tag team titles did have a little prestige behind them. They were fucking pointless, but
it's what was said to them for the title run, like during this interview section that I'm referencing.
And Tracy asks the Patriot if their colors are red, white, and blue, or just plain yellow. Well, Firebreaker Chip does wear yellow. And I'm mad at myself that there's a man called Firebreaker Chip.
Yep.
Hint, hint, I am not a fan of the Patriots.
Yeah, I wasn't either.
I wasn't either.
And there's really no
or this match.
Yeah.
This was the original deflate game. Their muscles deflated halfway through.
Yes. So there's really nothing of substance to this interview except that the Young Pistols want to face the Patriots for the U.S. tag titles. Moving on, we move on to our next match as T1 is introduced as the Creatures.
Ooh.
Now, yeah.
Cool name for such absolute bullshit.
Yep.
Well, they were better known as Jumping Joey Maggs and Johnny Rich. Yep. Nobody knows who the fuck they were. I remember Johnny Maggs. I'm not gonna lie. He was awful. Or Joey Maggs, I'm sorry. So the Creatures make their way out with some generic music. WCW is really good for the generic shit. When it came to music, hold on one second. I will clear my throat eventually. They make their way. Like I said, you can't tell these guys. You can just tell these guys are toast. As JR and Tony are they're spending all their time talking about the Young Pistols instead of the entrants. And I mean, the Pistols aren't even in this match, and nor are they feuding with anybody in the match. So that just shows you how much JR and Tony care about this match. Now we get some generic rap because once again, the stagehand pulls the door shut. And PN News' fat ass and Big Josh make their way out to the ring.
I need to show you something really quick.
Joey Maggs.
That's when he went by Joey Knight there for a little bit. And yes, that was a promo picture. And yes, his tag team partner felt that was the best pose they could do that day.
You know what? That's on his that's on his Wikipedia page too.
And that's where I just pulled it from. It was the most hilarious.
Yeah, that. So, Matt, do we know who Big Josh goes on to be?
Oh, we got a picture.
The Mr. Lumberjack.
Big Josh, huh?
You got a picture, Rez? You gonna try to find one?
Working on it. I mean, he's gonna kick himself in the face for not.
Yes, because he's not the only person to play this character, but he's the original.
Bringing it up now.
Was it Kevin Nash? Maybe.
No, that's not. We'll talk about that in a minute.
No, we got him in a few minutes.
Oh shit.
That is correct. Big Josh goes on to be Doink the Clown.
Yes.
The original Doink the Clown. Of course,
I am kicking myself.
Matt Bourne.
So PN News does a shitty rap and of course finishes with his trademark, yo baby, yo baby, yo. We cut to Christine Valor, who apparently won a WCW magazine rap contest. Inside the ring, Big Josh just starts the match out, and Tony talks about how improved Big Josh is. The Creatures double team him for a moment as Creature 2 lays in some boots. Big Josh reverses a corner whip and tags in PN News, who murders Creature 2 by splashing him in the corner.
Yep, dead.
News hits a pretty nice. He did hit a pretty nice drop kick. It was kind of nice to see him do the drop kick for being a big dude like that. Before Creature 2 gets the upper hand and tags in Creature 1. Creature 1 tries to whip News into the rope, but he's too fat. Yes, I am not going to stop with the fat jokes, guys. This is not going to happen. I hate being News. He's a fat fuck. He's a waste of space on my television screen.
I mean, personally, as a fat fuck, I'm okay with it.
Yes.
Me too, man. Me too.
So News knocks him on his ass again and tags in Big Josh, who jumps over News's shoulders to take out Creature 2. Josh hits a German. JR calls it a belly-to-back suplex. Creature 1 gets the upper hand again, but Josh turns it around again and nails a back body drop. Tag into News as News almost hits a Northern Light suplex without the bridge, of course, because guess what? He's fat. News tries to splash Creature 1 in the corner, but he moves and Creature 2 tags in, but is immediately met with a belly-to-belly for 2. Creature 2 tags in and they double team for a second. One leans the punches in, but Josh reverses into a power bomb, I guess. I think he fucked it up royally. Josh throws one against the ropes, nails a double chop. Josh screams for the crowd and hits the earthquake splash, which he calls Northern Exposure. You know, the one where he hits the ropes, jumps up, and basically sits on his chest. Doesn't have the impact that Earthquake does either. He looks confused as Nick Patrick isn't counting, but tags in PN News for the finish. News goes up, nails the Rat Master splash, and Josh stands on his back, thus murdering Creature 1 via squished by Fat Guy. Winners are PN News and Big Josh via pinfall in 5 minutes and 16 seconds. That could have been cut and added to the main event.
There's a couple things we missed on this. The names of the creatures.
There were names. I thought they called them Creature 1 and Creature 2.
No, they had names.
Really?
And it's kind of funny, actually. Comfort.
Periwinkle and
was
Urkel.
one of the names. Creature Comfort?
Oh, you fucking asshole.
No, I'm serious. This was actually one of the names.
No, I'm talking to them. I'm calling them assholes.
And the other one was Feature. Like Creature Feature.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm sticking with 1 and 2.
Yeah, and here's one of the funniest parts about all this. So at ringside in the front row, and this was a big deal. They talked about it during the pay-per-view, and they talked about a Nitro before it. There was a woman named Christine who apparently won tickets to the show for writing a rap and sending it into the WCW. Yeah, the WCW magazine as part of the contest, and she wins. And her prize is this pay-per-view featuring PN News and Big Josh as a tag team. This was her prize.
Good lord.
Particularly this match.
Meanwhile, in 1994 or 95, WWF has given away a fucking house.
In your house pay-per-views, baby.
The faces celebrate, and JR just talks about the next match because fuck PN News. PN News, if you're listening, fuck you.
Yep.
I mean it.
And that's the news.
So the next match is scheduled for 1 fall, and from Huntsville, Alabama, beautiful Bobby Eaton comes to the ring, and they are praising Bobby for being ranked number 7 in the WCW magazine and that. Then we get a Dynasty ripoff music as Alexander York, better known as Marlena, and Terry Runnels, leads down Terrence Taylor, who is wearing a tuxedo for reasons. Alexandra, of course, has her laptop with her. The York Foundation at this point is Terrence Taylor, Richard Morton, and Thomas Rich. Now, Matt, what she would do is she would type in scenarios to her little laptop, and it would tell her the next move that that guy should use. Her guy should use, and how to win the match. And then, of course, to bonk people with.
Oh.
I didn't say it was a good gimmick.
Oh,
so Terry Taylor. It could be
one match.
It could be worse because Terry Taylor did just come off wrestling as a rooster. I'm not joking. He was the Red Rooster.
Yep, the Red Rooster back in the 80s.
So Taylor removes his. Yeah, I mean his most memorable match is wrestling Bobby Heenan at WrestleMania.
Yep, sure is. That a huge thing, and I love that. Gorilla Monsoon used to egg it on all the fucking time, which I love. He kept bringing Rooster in like for their sit down interviews randomly.
So Taylor removes his suit, and Alexander York checks her computer real quick to instruct Taylor on what he should do. York leaves the ring, and we get some shoving going on. They square up as the ref gets between them. They lock up and again start shoving again. I mean, it's a lot of stalling at the beginning. I've noticed a lot of WCW matches, especially on this show. There's almost 2 minutes of stalling at the beginning of the match. Taylor starts to taunt Bobby after an arm drag as Bobby, sells his arm a little bit. Taylor hits another arm drag, and as he's selling the arm, Taylor slaps him. They lock up again, and this time Bobby drops Taylor with an arm drag. Excuse me. Sorry about that. Like I was telling Matt, it's that onset of the throat, getting scratchy and coughing, and the worst part of it, basically.
Yep.
They lock up again, and this time Bobby drops Taylor with an arm drag of his own and some stomps. Taylor goes to the outside to stall a bit as Bobby stops York from opening the computer. Back in the ring. Yeah. Back in the ring, they lock up again, and Taylor gets Bobby on the outside. Taylor goes for a punch, and Bobby back body drops him over the railing into the crowd, which the fans love. Back in the ring, Taylor goes for the cheap shot, but Bobby catches his leg, and the crowd erupts. Bobby holds the leg, spins Taylor around, and drops his ass with a right hook. Bobby covers for 2. Bobby locks Taylor in an armbar. There's a lot of armbars. A lot of armbars in this match. Tony talks about Bobby wanting the winner of the TV title match later on tonight. Taylor breaks the armbar with an elbow to the jaw. Bobby hits the ropes. Taylor goes for an arm drag, but Bobby holds on and locks in an armbar again. We're like a couple minutes into the match and they're already landing rest holds and that, like trying to catch their breath. Tony talks about how Bobby is wearing him down for the Alabama Jam. Taylor hits a jawbreaker, breaking the armbar finally. Taylor pushes Bobby to the ramp where Taylor swings at Bobby, who catches him and hits an atomic drop. And a body slam on the ramp. That's the other thing about 90s WCW. A lot of headlocks, a lot of bulldogs, a lot of atomic drops.
And armbars.
Yeah, and armbars.
Bars for days.
Taylor is down as Bobby climbs the ropes, but Randy Anderson tries to stop him, but Bobby launches and drops a knee from the top rope onto the ramp in what was actually a pretty cool move, in all honesty. Taylor gets back in the ring and begs off before grabbing Bobby's tights and pulling him through the ropes to the outside because, we were just outside, so we got to go back outside. Bobby tries to get back in the ring and gets slammed back first into the ring post. Taylor hits the ropes, knocks Bobby off the apron and into the guardrail with a hip check. Bobby is hurt on the outside, and Terry meets him out there with a clothesline. Alexandra opens the computer to show Taylor the strategy he should use next. JR mentions that Bobby only has until the count of 10 to return to the ring in case you've just started watching wrestling. Bobby gets back in, and Taylor whips him into the opposite corner, follows in with a clothesline. Terry covers for 2, and then pulls him up, and Bobby starts nailing some right hands, fighting back. But Taylor reverses, sending Bobby again to the ramp. Outside on the ramp, Terry sets him up and drops Bobby with a beautiful gut wrench powerbomb.
It was.
JR says if his back wasn't injured, it was now. That's essentially what a powerbomb does, yes. We get some crowd shots as it is packed at the UTC arena tonight. Taylor drops some knees on Bobby as he tries to re-enter the ring. The ref admonishes him as Taylor goes up and leaps off the top rope for a superfly splash. He covers Bobby and it only gets 2, much to his chagrin. Taylor locks in a chin lock, and Tony says this isn't a move that will put away Eaton. The ref checks Bobby's arms, and Bobby stops his arm from falling a third time. Bobby gets up and starts hitting Taylor with some rights. Taylor then knees Eaton in the abdomen, kicks Bobby off the apron, and he goes back to talk with York again, and Bobby just nails him with a couple of rights before being counted out. He wasn't counted out, though. I don't know why I wrote that. Bobby goes up top and hits a sunset flip for 2. Taylor hits him with the clothesline as the crowd goes dead now. As good as technical as this match is, this crowd is obviously bored. Like, these are 2 guys as good as Bobby Eaton was, the crowd didn't care. And Terry Taylor, I don't think anybody ever cared about Terry Taylor.
No. Not even a little.
Taylor locks in a camel clutch, and we sitting for a long time in this hold. Like, it lasts a couple of minutes. Bobby finally breaks the hold with a jawbreaker of his own. Bobby goes to splash Taylor, but Terry has the legs up. Both men are on the ground writhing. Terry is the first one up as he climbs the second rope and goes for a Vader bomb, but Bobby gets his knees up. Bobby is dropping Taylor with those right hands. Bobby with the corner punches. Taylor pulls him out at 6 for an inverted atomic drop. But Bobby counters with a snap suplex. That was actually a thing of beauty right there. Bobby covers for 2. Bobby tries to whip him across. Taylor reverses into the corner, but Bobby comes out of the corner with the swinging neck breaker. Bobby climbs the rope for the Alabama Jam, but Taylor hits the ropes, knocking Bobby down. Taylor tries for a top rope suplex, but Bobby again reverses it with a right hand, knocking Taylor to the canvas below. Bobby stands on the top rope, leaps, nailing Taylor with the Alabama Jam for the 1, 2, and 3. This was a really long match. Bobby Eaton via pinfall at exactly 16 minutes even. Thoughts on the match? Matt, we'll go with you first this time.
Shouldn't have done that, man. See,
all right, Raz, do you want to go first?
These
Yeah. Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, go ahead, Matt. Are you ready?
These guys, I'd never seen in my life before. Of course, I watched the match all the way through. It wasn't it, man. It really wasn't that good at all.
Yeah,
I tried to put my unbiasedness into it. There's a couple cool moves here and there, but it was just boring.
I get it. For a modern fan, it would definitely. I don't even think for fans back then it actually hit the mark. But Raz.
Okay. Well, the computer aspect of this was it was funny back then. I remember thinking that was fucking amusing, and it was amusing this time. What kills me is that Bobby kind of weirdly got over more as a babyface in this match, and they really built him up for like this quest for the TV title. But then, pretty much immediately after, he turns heel and goes back to becoming a tag team wrestler for the rest of his career, and that's a what the fuck situation.
In the later 90s, he kind of became a jobber on like Nitro and that. But other than that, yeah. I mean, later on we'll find out because excuse me again. God damn. Technically, this show is the formation of the Dangerous Alliance, who Bobby Eaton will eventually join. We'll talk about that later on. But yeah, I can definitely see, unless you're a fan of like rest holds, this match doesn't have it. Like, even the crowd was bored. Terry Taylor never was that great, honestly. The most interesting thing about him was when he was a fucking rooster.
Yep. I loved him as Red Rooster. I loved the Red Rooster as a kid. That was like, growing up, that was one of my favorite fucking characters in wrestling, to be honest with you.
Oh, yeah. When he was a face and fighting Bobby Heenan, oh, yeah, I loved him. Terrence Taylor fucking sucks. So JR and Schiavone now talk about how Michael Hayes was the original opponent for Johnny B. Bad. But since he is injured, Jimmy Jam Garvin would be taking his place in this match. And Hayes will be on the outside. God damn you for taking this match. We go back to Gary Michael Capetta as Bad Street USA plays and outwalk the Freebirds with Michael Hayes' arm in a sling. They actually get a warm reception because, Chattanooga is not that far away from Georgia. From the Chattanooga faithful, and they're doing the tomahawk chop because, they're from Georgia. The Braves are in the World Series back in '91. And I wrote down, it's almost as if the guy who owns the company also owns the Braves. Next out from Macon, Georgia, heel Johnny B. Bad. And I don't remember him as a heel, in all honesty.
I mean, there's a reason you don't remember it.
Yeah, he wasn't that long. And he's being managed, of course, by Teddy Long. Again, the announcers care so much about this match that we are talking about the WCW Phantom's identity instead of the guys in the match. Johnny B. Bad, he's still a rookie because he's getting no reaction. And it's kind of, and like I said, it was kind of hard to tell if he was heel or face at first. But JR talks about the difference between the finishing moves of both guys. And then they did this a lot, where Jimmy Garvin has the DDT, and of course, Johnny B. Bad just has the left hook. Johnny climbs the ropes and gets booed. Hayes does the opposite side, and the fans cheer. The bell rings, and fucking Nick Patrick is our official. Johnny B. Bad shows off his boxing skills as the fans start to chant DDT. Teddy Long finally gets the hell out of the ring 2 minutes after the bell has rung, by the way. I kept count. It was 2 fucking minutes. They finally lock up, and Bad pushes Garvin into the corner, and Bad solidifies his heeldom by hitting Garvin in the gut with a left hook instead of the clean break. They lock up again as Garvin hits the ropes, and Bad shows off his athletic ability and does multiple leapfrogs and drop downs. They trade arm drag attempts as they get closer to the ropes, and Garvin ends up arm dragging Bad over the top rope and to the floor. Remember, Matt, how you were saying in previously about the over the top rope rule?
Yep.
They only pick and choose when they were going to use it.
Yep.
They didn't use it every time because that should have technically been an over the top rope disqualification. It is not. Hayes is celebrating on the floor as Nick Patrick is distracting and admonishing Garvin for something he should have probably been disqualified for. Hayes takes his arm out of the sleeve and sling and nails Bad on the outside with the right hand. The fans cheer for this as now both sides are doing heel tactics. Bad gets back in the ring, and we get more rope running before Garvin counters into a power slam. Garvin hits the ropes a few more times as Bad gets up, and Garvin drops him again with a shoulder block. Bad rolls to the outside where Teddy checks on his man. Bad is worried about his pretty face, of course, and Teddy is telling him to slow the pace down. It can get slow, and I wrote down it can get slower. Lock up again, and Garvin with the arm wringer on Bad. Remember how we said they like to do arm ringers on arm bars? He gets Bad down and leg drops him on the arm before pulling him to his feet and holding onto the arm wringer. Bad counters with a punch to the face. Bad gets angry and starts pounding on Garvin's back. Bad is angry as he keeps attacking the ribs of Garvin. He's basically just whipping his ass. Bad hits the ropes and nails a jumping clothesline. Actually, would look pretty good. The fans are chanting DDT. Bad has Garvin in a reverse chin lock with his knee in Garvin's back. Teddy Long gets on the ring apron and tosses Bad a towel and easily distracts Nick Patrick, and Bad wraps the towel around Garvin's throat, choking him. Garvin gets to the ropes while Patrick has his head up his own ass, and Bad drops the towel and keeps up the body shots on Garvin as Hayes shows Patrick the towel that was still on the fucking ramp. Basically, Nick Patrick's looking and goes, "Oh, that's weird." And Patrick literally asks Hayes, "What do you want me to do about it?" I don't know, your job?
Yeah.
Bad with a back body drop on Garvin. Garvin in the corner and now gets some more body shots. Bad whips him across the ring, but Garvin reverses it and goes in, but Bad catches him with the boot. Drops him with a clothesline. Bad to the top and almost breaks his own fucking neck doing a sunset flip from the top because Garvin was too far away from the corner. Bad covers for 2. Bad doesn't hesitate as he body slams Garvin, then heads to the top for a Macho Man style elbow drop. Slams him down again and goes up top again, but Garvin is up and Bad goes for the axe handle. Garvin was supposed to punch him in the gut as Bad does the flip, but I can honestly say I did not see Garvin punch him. I don't even think his hand moved, honestly. Bad sells it, though, as Garvin gets him up and puts him in the corner. Garvin with the whip. Bad reverses. Bad leaps to hit an elbow, but misses and flies over the top to the outside. We see some blood on Garvin's arm, but neither seem to be busted open anywhere. Bad gets on the apron. Garvin whips him over the top. Again, over the top rope. The fans are chanting DDT as Garvin misses the elbow drop. And they hit the ropes again. Like, there's just running the ropes a lot in this match. Bad and Garvin both jump and hit heads in midair. Both men are down as Patrick starts counting. Bad up first. Bad swings and Garvin with a vicious DDT out of nowhere. But guess where Nick Patrick is doing? He is being distracted by Teddy as Garvin intervenes. Bad spins him around, nails the left hook for the 1, 2, and 3. Johnny B. Bad via pinfall in 8 minutes and 16 seconds. During the pinfall, Garvin gets his legs on the rope, but Teddy pushes it off. Hayes gets in the ring without the sling and drops Teddy Long. Hayes is yelling at Patrick, but to no avail. In the replay, we can clearly see Bad has a bloody mouth now, though. Do we want to talk about this match?
I mean, not the match, but I wouldn't mind talking about Johnny B. Bad for a minute.
That's fine. Good old Mark Marrow.
Yeah. Mark Marrow. This was such a weird fucking gimmick. The thing about Marrow is he had plenty of his own real life problems, but the dude was not a bad wrestler by any means.
No, he really wasn't.
And I love Chuck Berry. I'm a huge Chuck Berry fan. Obviously, Johnny B. Good is like it's actually a favorite old school song of mine.
Uh-huh.
So you would think that this would be some kind of Chuck Berry gimmick, but it was not.
It was Little Richard.
It was a Little Richard gimmick. And that kills me because the dialogue, the things that he would say, and he spoke like even more effeminately than he did, I feel like, during this. And at one point, he actually says he says to people in some interviews, in character, "I'm so pretty, I should have been born a little girl." And had a pop gun that fired confetti into the crowd called the Bad Blaster.
Yes.
And then literally, after all this goes, shit falls apart with him and Bischoff. He leaves. He goes to WWF and does a storyline with him abusing Sable, like physical abuse.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And that abuse storyline blew up right in his motherfucking face. And she actually became like one of the hottest things, like as far as like star power in WWE for a bit, whereas his career fucking died.
Yes.
It was insane. To be a decent wrestler and go to this and then to Wildman for that storyline was just I don't know, man.
And like now he's a motivational speaker.
Yep.
All right, Matt, any thoughts on the match?
I got to see young Teddy Long.
Yep, that's true.
This is true. The thing about
without the Undertaker even.
The thing about Jimmy Garvin is Jimmy Garvin was a better tag team wrestler than he ever was single. Like the Freebirds should have never, unless it was the original Freebirds, they should have never done anything but tag matches.
Agreed.
Michael Hayes was past his prime. He'll be Doc Hendricks in about 3 years. Jimmy Garvin was never good, like ever.
Never.
He just fit the gimmick. He just fit the gimmick, you know. And that's about it, you know. That's there's really nothing else to say about the match. Jimmy Garvin, not good. Match was terrible. A bunch of the same shit over and over, you know.
Yep.
So JR sends us to Missy Hyatt to see if she can find the WCW Phantom. Missy is whining about not being able to find the Phantom when Bobby Eaton walks by. She grabs his arm to stop him, and she asks him where the Phantom is. And Bobby asks, "Who the fuck is the Phantom?" He doesn't say fuck, but I wish he would have. It would have been awesome.
We know that's what he wanted to say.
Yes. She tells him that she knows he's been in the dressing room. Like, no, bitch, he's been out fucking wrestling for the past 16 minutes. And that he knows where he's at. Now, Bobby is holding a pumpkin for no reason whatsoever. Unless that is what's going to be like your prize. If that's your prize for winning, is your you get a pumpkin, apparently. She is jumping up and down, begging him, but he tells her he just won a match, so he's going to go celebrate.
Right.
She begs him not to disappoint her, and Bobby just looks at the screen and goes, women. And walks out of shot as
That
Missy
shit
whines
was
some
funny.
more. And I love Bobby fucking Eaton.
Oh, yeah.
That was hilarious. And the funny thing is, Bobby never talked much. Like, Bobby Eaton never cut promos or anything like that. He was never known as the promo guy. He was always the the wrestler, the workhorse of the Midnight Express. So yeah. Any thoughts on this shit with Missy Hyatt? I think it's awful personally. I don't like Missy Hyatt, so
No one really did. I didn't
yeah.
think Missy Hyatt liked Missy Hyatt at the end of the day.
Oh no, they liked Missy Hyatt, but not for the reasons that WCW is
No.
trying to show.
I said I don't think Missy Hyatt liked Missy Hyatt at the end of the day.
No, she really didn't. We go to Capetta, who announces the next matches for the WCW World Television Championship. Introducing first, accompanied by Lady Blossom from Hollywood, California, the WCW World Television Champion, Stunning Steve Austin. JR calls Missy Wendy Weiner, which makes me laugh because that and whining was so fucking annoying. The music hits, and from Austin, Texas, the challenger, the natural Dustin Rhodes. Tony talks about Austin being the hottest athlete in WCW, and then we cut to Lady Blossom in a very low-cut dress, and Tony just says, hello. Tony is a horn dog. Not that I can blame him. Lady Blossom is looking pretty fucking good tonight. Lady Blossom would actually be the ex-wife of Austin's trainer, gentleman Chris Adams, who they actually did have a feud over her in World Class Championship when Austin was first coming up. She would also be Austin's first wife before Deborah. In the ring, the men have locked up, and Dustin puts Austin in the corner. They do some standing chain wrestling before Austin gets dropped with an elbow. They go to lock up again, but Austin takes the legs and goes for a spinning toe hold. Dustin reverses into a half crab. Austin crawls to the rope to break the hold. Austin gets up and tells Randy Anderson that since he got to the ropes, that means he wins, right? I thought that was funny.
Yeah, that was hilarious.
I was like, no, I got to the ropes. That means I win, right? I mean, he has to break. No, Randy informs Austin that is not the case. They lock up again, and Austin drops Dustin with a shoulder block. Tony makes a very good insight that the TV champion is expected to defend his title 2 to 3 times a month versus the U.S. or world champion who only defends it about once a month. That became a thing with the TV title, though, especially when Regal had it. Like, Regal was defending it every single week on Nitro.
It was the TV title. He had to. He had to constantly defend it on TV. That was kind of the point of the title.
But my whole thing with Regal was, when they asked him, do you have any aspirations to go for any of the title? Regal would say, what am I going to do? Go for the U.S. title? I hate America. Why would I want to be their champion?
Right.
And as for the world champion, he's like, Hulk Hogan ain't going to wrestle me. He's afraid of me. So the television championship is right where it belongs and right where I want to be. Fucking great,
Yeah.
They circle each other a bit and lock up again as Dustin sends Austin into the ropes and is dropped by Austin again with a shoulder block. The pace picks up as young Austin shows off his speed, hits the ropes. Dustin drops down. Austin leapfrogs him. Austin rebounds off the ropes. And Dustin with a flying lariat takes down Austin. They are moving very fast. Like, I don't ever remember Austin moving this fast, like, especially when he was Stone Cold in WWF. But this was fast, and this was phenomenal, the way they did it. Austin to his feet, and Dustin drops him again with a standing drop kick. Dustin covers for 2. Austin gets up, Dustin with a side headlock. Austin's shoulders are down for 2. Austin reverses into a head scissors, and we cut to Dusty Rhodes' mama as she cheers her grandson on. Dustin then a leg lock on Austin, but Austin again gets to the ropes. The ref stands them up again as they lock up and side headlock on Austin. Austin sends Dustin into the ropes, catches him with a knee to the gut. Austin takes him down to the mat with a headlock as we get some mat chain wrestling. Both get up and hit the ropes again, this time with Dustin with the shoulder tackle. Dustin hits the ropes again, and Austin with a hip toss. They chain wrestle a bit before Austin is against the ropes, and Dustin clotheslines Austin over the top to the floor. Tony asks a great question because that is technically a disqualification in this era of WCW. Dustin helps Austin back into the ring, and Austin hits an axe handle on Dustin as he gets back in the ring. Dustin hits the ropes again, and this time with a slide suplex and a cover without hooking the legs for 2. Austin again whips Dustin into the ropes, and Dustin catches him with a knee. Dustin signals for the Bulldog, and Austin avoids it. Austin approaches Dustin, gets a right hand for his trouble. Dustin gets Austin in a side headlock again, shoulders down for 2. Austin rolls him over and gets a 2, but stays in the headlock. Capetta comes on informing us that there are still 10 minutes left in the match, which only happens when, Dustin still has Austin in the side headlock as we cut to Lady Blossom doing some poses for the camera, and Tony talks about how Blossom likes to hide foreign objects in certain parts of her clothing for Austin to use in his matches. JR says he can't see anywhere for her to hide anything on her person tonight with the outfit that she has on. Now JR is a horn dog. While all of this is going on, Dustin still has Austin in the side headlock. JR says if the executive committee would listen to him, Lady Blossom wouldn't be allowed at ringside anyways. Some more back and forth action as Austin reverses an Irish whip into a head scissors. Dustin gets to his knees, trying to pry Austin's leg off his head. He succeeds and puts the headlock back on. JR talks about a double-page fold-out in the newest issue of WCW Magazine with Austin and Lady Blossom. And JR asks Tony if he knows why it was 2 pages. And Tony tells Tony he'll tell him after the show. Dustin is hitting the ropes, and Austin ducks, and Dustin goes for a body press and misses. Austin bounces off the mat and to the outside. Austin capitalizes and starts punching him repeatedly on the floor before Randy Anderson comes out to stop him. Austin gets back in the ring and tells him he's cool. He's cool. Austin goes back outside and punches him a few more times. And again, heads back to the ring.
But why did he punch the floor harder than he punched him?
Good question. But Dustin is now busted open, staggering around the ringside. Austin follows him outside again, slamming his head into the apron and slides back in again. Austin climbs the ropes and lands an axe handle to the outside. Now Austin helps Dustin finally get back into the ring. Dustin in the corner and punches Austin, but Austin responds with an eye rake. Austin now with a gut wrench suplex and a cover. Dustin kicks out at 2. And we forget how great Steve Austin was in WCW.
Oh, yeah.
Austin locks in his own side headlock as Dustin is shaking his hand, trying to get the crowd into the match. Capetta tells us there's 5 minutes left. Austin has his legs on the rope for leverage, but Pee Wee Anderson doesn't see it. Anderson's too busy admonishing Lady Blossom for doing nothing. That's right. He's yelling at Lady Blossom, who has done absolutely nothing. Austin with his legs on the ropes again, and Anderson caught it this time. Austin is arguing with Anderson, and Dustin takes advantage and nails Austin with the right hand. He hits him a few more times before whipping Austin into the corner and trying a monkey flip, but Austin holds on. Dustin gets back up, but Austin comes out with a clothesline. Austin covers again for 2 as Capetta tells us there are 4 minutes left. They trade inside cradles for 2. Dustin nails a lariat and covers for 2. Dustin whips Austin into the ropes and misses a dropkick. Austin covers for 2. Dustin gets strewn across the middle rope as Austin starts to choke him. Anderson gets Austin off Dustin finally, but Lady Blossom starts slapping the shit out of Dustin on the outside. I'm talking she slaps him like 5 times before Austin again starts to choke him. Austin goes for a guillotine, but Dustin moves, and Austin hits Austin with an atomic drop and a lariat. Dustin covers, and it's too close to the ropes as Austin gets his leg on the rope at 2. Austin gets rammed into the steel post, and now Austin is busted open, back in the ring. Capetta says 2 minutes remain. Dustin whips Austin and nails a power slam. Dustin covers for 2. Dustin gets up, hits a snapmare, and starts blasting Austin with right hands. Both men are bleeding. Dustin shoves the ref, but Anderson says, "I'll allow it." Dustin nails the bionic elbow and covers for a 2. Capetta says 1 minute left. Dustin puts Austin in the corner and does the 10 count with the elbow. Anderson tries to stop him. 30 seconds left. Another Irish whip from Dustin as Austin leapfrogs. Austin goes for a punch and Dustin drops him with a bunch more punches. Dustin covers again for 2. Dustin climbs the ropes. Dustin climbs the ropes as the 10-second countdown begins, leaps off the top rope, nails a flying lariat. Dustin covers Austin for 2 as the bell rings. Dustin stays on the attack. Austin has retained his television championship. Time limit draw, 15 minutes. After the match, Austin celebrates and Lady Blossom helps her man to the back. Raz, you have any thoughts on this match?
I mean, technically the match was decent in the beginning. It's a little slow, but that last 5 minutes, I feel like that whole match really happened in the last 5 minutes. In a good way. I mean, in a good way. It was actually a decent match. It was the first match really that we've discussed so far that was almost worth watching for me. I mean, like, it was good.
It was fun. It was a very fun match.
Minus the far-reaching little-known rule of my father is the booker, and I can get away with it.
Yes. Well, I mean, that's why Dusty was originally fired to begin with, because when Turner first bought the company, of course, he made a rule he didn't want blood on television. So the first thing Dusty did was have a match with the Road Warriors where they busted him open.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, like you said, the last 5 minutes of that match just went into overdrive, and these guys showed exactly what they can do. Both guys would, and the funny thing is, both guys would both go on to more fame and a better career in WWF.
Yeah, that's true.
Austin becomes the biggest star in the industry. Dustin becomes Gold Dust, and to me, has a career run. But we're gonna move on. I think Matt had to step out for a second, so we'll move on.
Yep, I'm here though.
Yeah, we now get a promo for Starrcade 91 Battle Bowl, the Lethal Lottery from Norfolk, Virginia.
Yeah.
I'm back.
That is Matt. All right, Matt. What thoughts on the Austin and Dustin match?
That was a great match. I loved it. I loved how fast paced it was, obviously, because I'm more towards the newer age of wrestling. Yeah. But it was great, fast paced for its time. And the finish, I liked it. I didn't know that they overused it in WCW, but I feel like that was a good finish.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a way they didn't want to put the title on Dustin. Dusty's not going to let Dustin lose, so 15-minute time limit draw, move on. That's exactly what his thought process was.
Oh yeah.
Within a couple of months, Austin's also joining the Dangerous Alliance with Bobby Eaton and, of course, Arn Anderson and Larry Zbyszko and one other person we will talk about later. But we come back to Gary Michael Capetta introducing the next match, and from the Emerald City of Oz. Kevin Nash walks out without all the fame from his original debut. Like Raz, if you could find a picture of the original.
Oh, I'm already doing it right now.
Oz. Was that at the Great American Bash or was that at Bash at the Beach? I can't remember which one it was at, but so funny story. During the entrance, Kevin Sullivan is I guess it's the midget standing in front of him, like one of the Munchkins, I guess.
It was Super Brawl 1, by the way.
Was it Super Brawl?
Yeah.
I'm
trying to find the best picture.
So for the whole reason they did it, Ted Turner had just, he has Turner Classic Movies. He has this collection, and he wants to try to tie in wrestling with his movies that he owns. And what better way to do this than with his, the most popular movie that he owns, The Wizard of Oz. So we get all the fanfare, we get all this, about this debut. They're walking to the ring. Kevin Sullivan is just over and over saying, "The great and powerful Oz, the great and powerful Oz, the great and powerful Oz." There's monkeys, there's all this stuff going on. What if I told you that one of the monkeys jumped, got caught on the leash, and snapped its own neck, killing it? In the debut of Oz.
Yep.
Jesus.
Live on national television. There is Oz.
Yes, that is Kevin Nash somewhere underneath there. I'm going to show you another picture in a second to prove it.
That is Kevin Nash under the mask as Oz.
What the hell?
Oh, dude, this... Yeah, this just...
Just stick to Super Shredder.
Well, luckily in a couple of months, they'll get rid of the Oz gimmick and just make him Vinny Vegas.
Yep. We see the proof here.
Yeah.
That's what he looks like without the mask on. And if you look like at this here, it was a little bit more detailed, and they went to this basically a hoodie later. The equivalent of a bad Halloween hoodie.
This is actually and this is the one that was actually from Halloween Havoc, as you can see the tombstones.
Yep.
And it just looks stupid. It looks stupid now.
Not that it was really good to begin with.
No. It looks a lot dumber when there's no mask. Like,
yep.
But Kevin Nash walks out without all the fame from his original debut. Basically, they've already given up. His opponent from Auburn, Alabama, the world's strongest human being, Bill Kazmaier. Now, Bill Kazmaier was legitimately billed as the strongest person in the world. He broke a lot of the records when in the strongest man competitions and things like that. Former football player, so of course JR loves him. So Kazmaier comes out, and this motherfucker has an inflatable globe. Like he is Atlas himself. JR mentions that Kazmaier is recognized by the Guinness Book of World Records as the strongest human being in the world, and he apparently has a 661-pound bench press. I would talk more about Kazmaier's history, but do we really care?
No, we definitely don't. I don't think anyone cared about this whole fucking match. Like,
Oh shit!
I don't even know why it's there.
It's there because. So Oz and Kazmaier lock up, and they barely do anything. They lock up twice more and barely shove each other. Kazmaier with a headlock, and Nash whips. And I'm going to keep calling him Nash. I'm not calling him Oz. Fuck that.
Yeah, let's just stop calling him Oz. Let's
Nash,
go back to being forgetting that he existed as Oz, please.
Yeah, and Nash with some knees. Nash whips him into the ropes and shoulder blocks him, and neither man budges. Kazmaier hits the ropes again and takes Oz down with a clothesline. Kazmaier lifts and body slams Oz with ease. I did say Oz, damn it. Nash gets back up and challenges Kazmaier to a test of strength. Because that's going to keep the fucking fans interested.
Oh, yeah, because we give a shit.
Hey, look, two giant guys are holding hands. Kazmaier starts to win almost immediately, but Oz kicks him in the gut, dropping him to his knees. I know. That's what I read done. That's why. The announcers are talking about the Light Heavyweight Championship match later on and praising Dustin Rhodes, while these two giant men are doing nothing at all.
That's because the announcers don't care about the match either, so they're trying to talk about anything but.
Well, it's WCW too. They never really ever talked about the match going on in the ring. It was, hey, this is coming up later.
That's true, yeah.
More test of strength as Kazmaier starts to win again before setting Oz's hands to the ground and stomping on his fingers. Nash gets mad and pounds on Kazmaier and shoves him into the corner. Nash whips Kazmaier, but Kaz reverses it, hits a hip toss as Oz comes out of the corner. Oz no sells, pops right back up. Oz now sends Kaz across the ring and hits a side suplex. Kazmaier rolls to the apron. Oz helps him to his feet. Now JR is talking about their next show in Tokyo. Kazmaier skins the cat and brings himself back into the ring and hits Nash a few times before putting Nash into the fucking torture rack.
Yep.
And the match is over. Winner is Bill Kazmaier via submission at 3 minutes and 59 seconds. Does Kazmaier celebrate in the ring? No, he just walks the fuck out. And the crowd does not give two flying fucks. Not even a little bit. I think we've already talked about this match. Do we really want to review the match?
There's nothing.
Give thoughts.
It was a dead
Nash.
It was a DOA gimmick, man. And Nash is one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. I've been on record saying that a ton. But this was not it.
No. This was garbage on all ends. Bill Kazmaier himself just, yeah.
It was the NWO. No.
Yeah. So JR plugs that there's 3 more title matches and the main event. JR says that Van Hammer was supposed to take on Michael Hayes, which is weird because I thought they said Johnny B. Bad was supposed to take on Michael Hayes.
Yeah, they did. They said it both times about both of them. It was very
Weird. But because of injury, he would instead be taking on Doug Summers? Does anybody remember Doug Summers?
Very little, man.
And it sounds like some random basketball player from like the 60s or 70s.
You don't talk about Van Hammer like that. Spoiler alert coming up. I hate Van Hammer. We go to Gary Michael Capetta as we see some crappy music playing. My guess is WWE. I was guessing at this point it was WWE, the network dubbing that they used to do if they didn't own the rights.
Yeah, that's exactly what they were doing. For sure.
And for some fucking reason, they have a couple of guys out there with jackhammers. Like, just jackhammering into random cinder blocks.
That was for Van Hammer's.
Yes. JR says the fans are standing as they have been waiting for this man, which is a downright lie, because we can clearly see the crowd still doesn't give 2 shits about what is in the ring.
Yeah, I love when they did the obvious lies like that, and the camera pans over, and you're like,
yeah.
Okay.
It's like, motherfucker, we can see the crowd. You do know this, right? Van Hammer has a guitar and does some headbanging. Meanwhile, Doug Summers doesn't get an entrance, which doesn't bode well for him at all. Especially if you're not getting an entrance on a pay-per-view.
Nope.
They lock up, trade side headlocks, Hammer whips Summers into the ropes, and immediately fucks up the leapfrog spot by not jumping over Summers.
Yep.
You can hear a pin drop from the crowd as Hammer hits a power slam.
Yep.
He whips Summers into the corner, hits an elbow drop, hits the ropes, leg drop. Hammer tries to get the crowd to do the beat of "We Will Rock You." They are not.
Nope, they just do not care.
Like, come on, we will rock you. Fuck you, asshole.
Yeah, basically.
He lifts Summers up into a suplex and starts falling backwards before Summers' legs even hit the ropes for the slingshot suplex. The crowd doesn't fucking care.
Nope. And that happens at the minute 02 mark.
Dude, I cared so little about this match, I didn't write the rest of it.
I can tell you, he ends up dropping Summers on his head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Van Hammer beats Doug Summers, minute 13 seconds. Fuck Van Hammer. Who the hell is Doug Summers? Let's move on.
Basically, Van Hammer was one of multiple attempts to try and push someone really hard that looked vaguely like the Ultimate Warrior.
Yes.
That's it.
Van Hammer just sounds like Van Halen.
That was the point.
That's disgusting.
Yeah.
That was the point.
Don't
because
you ever disrespect Van Halen like that.
I know.
WWF would try to do something similar with this with Man Mountain Rock, and I don't think that shit lasted a month either.
Yeah, but that was at least funny.
Yes.
WCW was serious about it. And that's the problem.
Like, I think the only time anybody gave two shits about Van Hammer, and they really still didn't, was when he was in the Flock. That was it. You know?
Yeah, and that's because they like the Flock. They like Raven.
Yeah, they like Raven. They like Raven and Saturn. Yeah, everybody else in the Flock, fuck everybody else in the Flock. Nobody cared.
Yeah.
I wrote down that I just now noticed that the haunted house facade is gone. Going back, it's been gone since after the Creatures came out in the second fucking match. Why would they take it down? It was awesome outside of the camera showing the guy closing the door. We move on to the finals of the Light Heavyweight Championship tournament. This is a tournament that's been going on for a little bit. So the brackets were this simple. Brian Pillman got a bye in the first round. Why? I don't know. He just did. Joey Maggs would lose to, or in the next round, or in the next match, Bad Street would beat Joey Maggs. Bad Street, again, Brad Armstrong in a mask as part of the Freebirds. Mike Graham would beat Terrence Taylor. Richard Morton would beat Johnny Rich. Brian Pillman would beat Bad Street to move on to the finals, and then Richard Morton would beat Mike Graham to move on to the finals. So we go to Gary Michael Capetta, and from Cincinnati, Ohio, Flying Brian Pillman, although they don't call him Pillman. His opponent, as the fake Dynasty music plays again, Alexander Yort is escorting Ricky Morton to the ring. Richard Morton to the ring. Morton, and here's the funny thing. He didn't really change his look up.
No, not at all.
Turning heel, he still has the fucking Rock and Roll Express tights on.
Yep. Which made zero fucking sense at all to anyone.
No.
Ever.
Nick Patrick has the referee bullshit helmet on again.
Yep.
JR gets giddy as he gets to talk about Pillman's football career. Like, I swear to God, when he gets to talk about football, that man gets a hard on at ringside.
Oh, yeah. And it's obvious, too.
Yeah, it's fucking ridiculous. Like, wait till the main event and he gets to talk about Lex Luger and Ron Simmons' football career.
Ooh.
Go Wig. Yeah. So the men lock up. Morton pushes Pillman into the corner. Morton swings. Pillman ducks. They circle each other again as they lock up, and Morton hits an arm drag, taking him down. Morton punches him a couple of times, and Pillman throws him against the ropes, but Morton slides to the outside. He walks over to York, who is typing something on the computer. York tells him what to do what she's paying him to do. They lock up again, and Morton with a punch. He whips Pillman against the ropes. He reverses it and goes for an arm drag. Morton attempts to hit an arm drag on Pillman, but he isn't budging. Pillman with a body slam and then a leg lariat sends Ricky Morton to the outside. We go to the referee bullshit, and I get a little nauseous from the spinning. Because it's Nick Patrick, and he's trying to find his ass so he can shove his head up his ass. Morton gets back in the ring, stalls a bit. Morton pushes him into the corner, nails Pillman with a right hand. Morton whips Pillman into the opposite corner. And Pillman does the corner jump over Morton, and Pillman goes to the other corner, and Morton doesn't fall for that shit twice. Except Pillman didn't jump the second time. Pillman leans and hits an axe handle on Morton and covers for 2. They get up. Pillman takes down Morton with a side headlock and a 2 count. Morton gets up and sends Pillman into the ropes and receives a shoulder block, and Pillman again covers for 2. Morton Morton slows the pace down with the head scissors as JR reminds us that Pillman played football in the NFL for the 3rd time.
Yep.
He talks about how the Bengals are winless this season. It's almost like it's the 2024 season.
Yep.
We get some more rest hold as Morton keeps Pillman in the head scissors. Finally, Pillman kips up out of the scissors, and we get some arm drags.
Yay.
Oh, yeah.
And punches before Pillman takes Morton down again with the side headlock. Morton gets to his feet and sends Pillman into the ropes. Morton drops Pillman, knocks him down with a back elbow. Morton goes to drop an elbow and misses, and now we are back to the side headlock. Tony talks about how Morton could have done better on that elbow drop. JR talks about an NFL award that Pillman just won.
Yeah.
Because that fucking matters. They get to their feet again, and Morton whips him into the ropes, and after a few ducks, Morton hits an inverted atomic drop on Pillman. Morton starts to work on Pillman's left shoulder. Morton tosses Pillman to the outside. Pillman sneaks back in behind Morton for a roll-up for 2. You know, I'm starting to see a pattern here. How much no-selling was going on at WCW in 1991?
A year's worth.
Yes, because I mean nobody is selling shit. Morton nails a clothesline as he was up quicker and covers, but Morton only gets a 2. Morton now locks in an armbar.
Oh, shit.
We haven't seen those tonight.
Not a
Tony,
1.
No, not a 1. Nope, first one we've seen all night. Tony keeps talking about Morton trying to injure Pillman's arm and who Pillman beat in the tournament. Pillman finally gets to his feet, knocks Morton on his ass briefly, as when Pillman hits the ropes, he gets dropped with a knee. Morton immediately gets back to the shoulder with a wrist lock. JR talks about the show being sold out as Morton gets Pillman into the corner again, whips him across, but misses a clothesline and hits the second one. The fans get loud, but Morton rakes his eyes, stopping the momentum. Morton hits a side suplex and covers for 2. Morton checks Pillman before sending him against the ropes. Pillman reverses, but Morton catches his foot. Pillman nails him with an enziguri. Pillman with a house of fire as he hits some basic hype-up moves. Morton turns the table again, but Pillman starts chopping. Both men run into each other and end up on each side of the ring. Pillman goes for a bulldog, but gets rammed into the steel with his bum shoulder. Morton climbs into the ring, and Pillman climbs the ropes. Morton turns into the flying body press. Pillman covers for the 1, 2, and 3. Winner and first ever light heavyweight champion, Flying Brian Pillman, via pinfall at 12 minutes and 45 seconds. Matt, we'll go to you first. What are your thoughts on that match?
that was the first time ever that I'd seen Brian Pillman wrestle. And I'd say I was pretty impressed.
He gets a lot better.
Oh yeah, yeah. He was a hell of a wrestler.
Yeah, especially once you get to the mid 90s and he starts that lunatic fringe style gimmick.
Yeah.
Like that's just fucking prime. There's actually an episode of Nitro because Pillman eventually joins the Horsemen and they're fighting Savage and Hogan on the outside. Hogan makes a beeline for Pillman because Pillman's getting very popular at the time.
Oh yeah, hugely popular.
Hogan starts pounding on Pillman. Pillman fucking no sells and pretends Hogan's not even hitting him. Like he's pretending Hogan's doesn't even exist. Which I can tell you right now probably pissed Hulk Hogan off more than anything.
Oh yeah.
So Raz, what do you think of that match?
Honestly, that was a decent match. I mean, listen, Pillman's always a good time.
Yes.
I'll never have anything bad to say about Pillman. I wish he could have. I wish he wasn't taken from us when he was.
Yeah.
He made a lot of decisions that that cut him short, and I feel like he would have had a hell of a career in WWE or WWF at the time. Had we not lost him, and it's definitely a regret seeing a fellow addict not make it from their choices. Great wrestler again. I'm really excited. I'm enjoying his son right now, actually.
Oh yeah, his match last night. Him and Charlie Dempsey put on a really good match, and funny as shit though. William Regal was his second in that match last night, and handed Alexis King the brass knucks to use on his own son. But Lexus King did not use them, said he's nothing like his father, and then got dropped immediately and lost.
Sounds like a pretty good finish.
It was. Dude, NXT's becoming the better show, in all honesty, of everything
better.
WWE is doing.
I haven't seen the Halloween Havoc yet, but I'm about to watch that, if not tonight, then tomorrow.
Dude, last night's show was great. The women's division is picking it up. Probably, in all honesty, they're not lying when they say they have the best women's division in wrestling.
Oh, yeah.
It's not a lie. It's not a lie.
So, Ruka, my heart goes out to you.
Well, what do you call it? Delta
fucking finisher I've ever seen in my life.
That is a pretty badass finisher.
Yes. Holy shit.
But like next week, dude, we got the ECW arena next week on NXT, or the 2300 arena, whatever you want to call it. Main event: Trick Williams and Bubba Ray Dudley against Ethan Page and Ridge Holland. Tony D'Angelo's defending the title against Nunzio. RBD's making an appearance. Francine's making an appearance. Dawn Marie's going to be a special guest referee in a match. Just
had me at RBD.
Yeah, RBD. They didn't say what he's doing. He says he knows what he's going to do next week, but they didn't say what he's going to do.
He knows, but no.
Yeah, because he got in the middle of the brawl between Wesley and Javon Evans, and yeah, it's getting so fucking good. Like NXT is becoming my favorite show right now. As good as Raw is with the Miz getting kidnapped again.
Yes.
I don't know if you guys have seen that video or not, where Miz gets kidnapped. Well, did you guys see what Karrion Kross put out shortly after?
Yes, I did.
That is the funniest fucking shit.
History repeats itself.
Raz, did you see that?
I did not.
So basically, after Miz gets kidnapped, Karrion Kross is in his office, I guess in his hotel room, writing something down. Scarlett comes in and goes, "Hey, Miz got kidnapped by the Wyatts." And Karrion Kross is like, "Oh, he got kidnapped by the Wyatts? Yeah, we should probably go help him." He goes, "Well, how long has it been?" I don't know, about 20 minutes. He goes, "Oh yeah, he's dead." But yeah, he's dead. We don't need to go save him.
Oh shit.
And it goes from there, and it's fucking hilarious. But moving on, JR talks about the mystery surrounding the next match as Eric Bischoff and Missy Hyatt have neither one found out the identity of the Phantom. Some generic music hits and the generic Tom Zank, aka the Z-Man, comes out to the ring to a lukewarm reaction. And guess what? The facade is back. The house is back. The music from Phantom of the Opera plays as a man in a black hat, cape, and a black and white mask makes his way out. He's hiding his face as he enters the ring. The Phantom immediately starts whipping Tom Zank's ass. The Phantom body slams Zank, stomps on him. We get a body slam and then drops him abdomen first across his knees. The crowd is dead as Zank is getting his ass kicked. The Z-Man tries to fight back before the Phantom hits a familiar-looking Hangman's neckbreaker.
Yep.
Phantom covers 1, 2, 3. The WCW Phantom wins the match in 1 minute 27 seconds.
Embarrassing.
It's Tom Zank, so after the match, Tony comments on the similarity of the Hangman's neckbreaker and the Rude Awakening. That's it. Do we really want to talk about this? It's a minute 27 match. Minute 27 seconds of Tom Zank getting his ass handed to him.
Yep. It was really, it happened very quickly.
Yep.
The Phantom did one hell of a job.
Yeah.
Yes.
Are we talking about who he is? Because I mean, obviously we know who he is.
In a minute, we will.
I didn't want to just bust it out and
Yeah.
plan.
Yeah. So when we come back, Gary Michael Capetta announces that the next match is for the WCW World Tag Team Championship.
Boo.
Out first from WCW Special Forces. I did not know WCW had its own army.
Yeah. Neither did they.
They are the U.S. Tag Team Champions. Firebreaker Chip can suck a dick, and Todd Champion.
In fact, he can suck 12.
Yes, he can suck the whole bag if he wants.
Yes, the whole
The
bag.
Patriots. Their opponents, the WCW World Tag Team Champions, Arn Anderson and Larry Zbyszko, the Enforcers. Arn does the throat slip on the ramp as the fans are fucking going ballistic for Arn Anderson.
I mean, who wouldn't? Let's be honest.
I mean, he is the badass. So,
Yeah.
again, one of my favorite wrestlers of all time.
He's earned his respect.
Yes.
Who I've never been a Four Horsemen, fan at all, ever. But I do like Storm.
Growing up, going every week in Norfolk, you had to be a Four Horsemen fan. Tony talks about how Arn and Tully attack. I wrote Tully? Jesus Christ! As if Tully Blanchard was still in WCW at the time. How Arn and Larry attacked Barry Windham in the parking lot. Larry and Firebreaker Chip start the match off. Ross talks about the Young Pistols and how they defeated the Freebirds for the U.S. Tag Titles. The Young Pistols did not defeat the Freebirds. The Patriots defeated the Freebirds for the U.S. Tag Titles. And the Young Pistols won a shot at them. We get some pretty basic rope work, and Larry locks it in an abdominal stretch. Chip reverses it. Larry locks Larry into one. Larry escapes with a hip toss, and we get some more chain wrestling until Chip rolls Larry up for 2. Larry claims Chip held onto the tights. And then there's this guy in the front row giving Larry the business, enough for Larry to notice and tell him to shut the hell up. Larry makes the tag to Arn, and the crowd cheers, and JR calls Arn Anderson the greatest tag team wrestler of all time. Chip tries to lock up, but Arn goes behind with a takedown. But Chip the Firebreaker escapes, and Arn slips to the outside. Oh, excuse me. 1 second. Many apologies for that one. Arn claims Chip has on too much oil, and he couldn't grab him. Back in the ring, Arn goes to grab again, but gets dropped by a shoulder block. Arn slows the tempo of the match and locks in an armbar. Chip reverses and tags in Todd Champion. Champion locks in a wrist lock. Arn gets Champion down, lays into him with the boots. Raw says they need to mat wrestle Champion because of how tall he is. I mean, wouldn't you just go for the fucking knees?
Yeah.
And I bet you that's the
Yeah.
first time he ever complained about lube in his whole life.
Yes. Arn slingshots Champion over the top, back into the ring. Arn stomps some more, and Champion goes back to the apron. Arn tries to slingshot him in again. But Champion slingshots Arn out. Arn, which technically is throwing him over the top rope.
DQ.
But again, the refs are going to allow it. On the outside, Arn goes for a pile driver, but Champion reverses it into a back body drop. Champion slides back into the ring, and Chip helps Arn back inside. Champion locks Arn into a bear hug, but Larry comes in, which causes Chip to come in and cause the distraction so Larry can hit Champion with a kidney shot, breaking the hold. Arn and Larry double team as Champion as Chip distracts the referee some more because he's a fucking idiot. They whip Champion across, but Todd bounces out of the corner and hits a double clothesline. Don't worry about it, guys. You're seeing double. Larry and Arn fall to the outside, and Larry calls for timeout. Back in the ring, Larry gets tagged in to face off against Todd Champion. They lock up, and Champion pushes Larry into the ropes. Champion with the clean break, but Larry slaps him like the bitch he is. Larry runs to the outside, and Todd chases him. Basically, to do the ring around the rosy in the ring, Larry slides back in, tags Arn, who comes in behind and holds Champion for Larry to hit with a spinning kick. Chip comes in to distract Randy Anderson again because he's an idiot. And Arn throws Champion over the top rope, which is fine because the ref didn't see it. Because his tag team partner's a fucking idiot. On the outside, Larry rams Champion's head into the guardrail and rolls him back inside. Now for some trademark Arn Anderson offense with those left hands and a fist drop to a prone Champion. Larry comes in, body slam for 2. We have 2 Razzes again.
Oh.
And hits a neck breaker for 2. Or Zbyszko spins him around and hits a neck breaker again for 2. Larry tags out to Arn, who comes in. Champion starts to fight back. Champion with a couple of right hands and lifts arm a little too high for an atomic drop, and Arn tags out while in the air. Champion drops Arn's butt crack down onto his knee, but doesn't notice Larry nail him from behind with the second rope axe handle. Larry with a backbreaker for 2. Larry locks in a chin lock, and the crowd just doesn't give a flying fuck.
As usual in this pay-per-view, for the most part.
Larry tags out the arm, but Champion gets the lukewarm tag to Chip. I say lukewarm because you can literally hear the 3-hole people that actually pop for the hot tag. I also noticed from the hard cam, 5 people are sitting with 5 people in the front row are sitting with their arms crossed. And there's very noticeable empty seats on the hard cam side that were not empty before. In the ring, Chip goes for a weird-looking power slam. Chip covers Larry, but Larry breaks up the pin at 2. Champion knocks down Larry. Arn slings Chip into the ropes, and the rebound Chip runs into Larry, knocking him to the outside. Champion goes after Larry, but Arn capitalizes and fucking plants him with the patented Arn Anderson spinning spine buster. The crowd comes alive, and I mean they pop huge for the spine buster. The fans around ringside are finally excited. Arn covers for the 1, the 2, and the 3. The Enforcers keep their World Tag Team titles via pinfall at 9 minutes and 51 seconds. Arn and Zbyszko celebrate in the ring, and once again, the fucking camera guys on the ramp keep making me think there's a run-in because of where they are standing.
Right.
Now, Matt, what were your thoughts on that match?
I mean, Larry Zbyszko's a legend, okay? But you can't beat Arn Anderson.
Larry at this time was kind of past his prime.
Yeah.
That's true.
But Arn Anderson did great. Fuck the Patriots.
Once
again.
Fuck Firebreaker Chip as the bitch he is.
I did not see one impressive thing from the Patriots. I'm not gonna lie.
They'd be gone pretty soon. They don't last very long.
For obvious reasons.
Yeah. And it was yeah. Raz, what were your thoughts on that match?
It happened.
I can honestly say I just love the fact that the crowd came alive for Arn Anderson. When he hits that fucking spine buster, that whole crowd, everybody should be out of their seat.
Wow.
Because that is the greatest, to me, that is the greatest spine buster of all time.
Oh yeah.
Especially when he fucking snaps that shit. So we cut to JR and Tony talking about the Enforcers being the best tag team combination in the business. JR also tells us that Eric Bischoff has a very special interview with a guy who always has a lot to say. And we cut to Eric Bischoff still dressed as Dracula because, Mick Foley killed him earlier. Mick Foley killed him earlier with his finger guns.
Yeah. Bang, bang.
He reminds us that the main event is still to come. In case you forgot, like it's like people were getting up to leave. Hey guys, don't forget the main event's coming. Oh shit, you're right. He now introduces Paul E. Dangerously, who Eric says has some news that will shake WCW to its very core. So Paul E. enters the camera with Medusa. Paul says, first of all, there's a story that nobody here has had the guts to break. For those who have been watching television and haven't seen me for a couple of weeks, WCW is headed by a steering committee. A bunch of modern-day Einsteins that don't realize it's 1991. Seeing these guys... these guys think that Paulie is too controversial. And it was at this point that I've noticed Eric Bischoff is kind of staring at Medusa's tits.
Oh, yeah, it's obvious.
Because I'm like watching his eyes and they're going down. It's like, you piece of shit. I mean, I don't blame him, don't get me wrong, but...
Don't make it so obvious.
Yeah, on national television on top of that. But Paulie says these guys say that he's too outspoken. It's almost like one of his old ECW rants.
Right.
So they say to me, Paulie Dangerously, you are no longer the co-host of WCW. Paulie says now this means war against the championship committee and against WCW. Paulie says they forgot that he has a manager's license. And the only way to bankrupt this company is to take out your heroes. And he's starting at the very top with Sting. And I'm sitting here thinking, Sting's the U.S. champion. Lex Luger is the world champion. Wouldn't Lex Luger be the top?
They said heroes, not douchebags.
Man,
True.
This is true. Because what would WCW do without Sting? So he went out and he got the first lady of World Championship Wrestling, Medusa. And I said, Medusa, find me the man who can eliminate Sting for good. Find me this man, and this man is in the building tonight. Paulie says JR couldn't pull his mask off. Tony Schiavone couldn't pull his mask off. He tells Bischoff maybe he could have. but he's been in the back watching the World Series game. Ladies and gentlemen, the man who will eliminate Sting, the WCW Phantom.
Dun dun dun.
The Phantom walks back out to the ring, and Paulie says the man behind this mask is the only man on the face of the planet that can help me bankrupt WCW, so that Paulie can fire every single person that has stood in his way. Medusa removes the hat as Paulie continues. The man behind this mask is the only man that's ever eliminated every opponent that's ever stood in his way.
Tonight.
Jake the Snake Roberts has something to say about that. The only man that can crush the hopes of the little Stingers until Sting stands over the remnants of his career and says, ashes to ashes, dust to dust. Rest in peace, Stinger. Your career is over. Ladies and gentlemen, your next United States champion, Ravishing Rick Rude. Rude takes the mask off and no one fucking cares.
I actually cared about that one.
I did. I love Rick Rude. The crowd.
There is video footage, again, of me and my family at a pay-per-view at Hair Arena with Ravishing Rick Rude bringing my granny into the ring during one of his segments.
Nice.
He was a super nice guy, man.
Great. Granny got to make out with Rick Rude. Got it.
Yep.
But I mean, as much as I like Rick Rude, you got to honestly admit the crowd didn't care.
They did not. But honestly, they didn't care about anything for the most part. I mean, this was a shit crowd. And it wasn't a great pay-per-view, but it was an extra shit crowd.
No.
Even that poor woman that won the tickets to this fucking pay-per-view didn't give a shit. And it was free.
Hey, we know you wrote this rap for us and everything like that to put in on our magazine. And here's your free tickets. And guess what? You get a backstage interview. You get the backstage pass, and you get to meet your favorite wrestler, PN News. you know
who else likes PN News? My mom.
Like, and she was just like, you know what? Can I just not win?
Give me the ticket value because it's probably worth more of my time than this pay-per-view.
Than this fat fuck over here. Rude. I'm gonna tell you right now. I did not write down what Rude said because it's word for fucking word exactly what Paulie just said.
Yeah.
Rude grabs the mic as the music's drowning him out. They're playing music and you can't hear him. And he cuts a promo saying that all he cares about is himself, his women, and his money. Rude says, I wrote down, Rude says almost the exact same thing Paulie has just spent 5 minutes saying.
But in 2 seconds.
Yeah. Rude asks if Sting is as small as he looks on television. And then Rude finishes by saying he's going to tear Sting limb from limb and that he's going to go through WCW until he takes the WCW United States Championship. The promo ends and Tony actually says, this may be the biggest piece of news coming out of WCW this year.
I said in the last 2 minutes.
I wrote down, meanwhile, Ric Flair is appearing on WWF television with your fucking title belt.
Yeah.
See, I like Rick Rude and all, but when he had that match against that random person,
Tom Zink,
you can tell that is Rick Rude under the mask just from the mustache.
Oh yeah, dude, that mustache did not fit under that mask well at all. That was poorly planned.
And I would also like to say that random guy was a former WWF Tag Team Champion.
Sure was.
So yeah, it's still Tom Zink. Don't get me wrong; he still fucking sucks. But so now it's main event time. JR gets hurt again as he gets to talk about how Ron Simmons returned to his alma mater, Florida State University, to train to prepare for his match with Lex Luger. We get a video package, and it's Ron Simmons doing football drills and running up and down the stands of the stadium.
Fucking Rocky style.
Yes. We see Ron talking to Bobby Bowden, the coach of Florida State University. And it ends with Ron Simmons at the top of the stands, like you said, Rocky Balboa style.
Dun-dun-dun.
We come back to Chattanooga and some music hits as Gary Michael Capetta announces this is our main event of the evening. We cut to a random fan just holding an FSU hat.
Yeah, this is the last match of the evening, and I promise you can all go home.
Yes. And then to the stage as Ron Simmons is coming to the ring with his second, Dusty Rhodes.
Tanya Harding comes out and
fucking kneecaps him.
Yep.
JR immediately starts talking about how Simmons is dressed in the Seminole colors. And by the way, they lost last night.
Yep.
And we cut to the entryway again. The haunted house beside is completely gone as 5 huge letters spelling Luger are now on the stage.
Loogie, Lex Loogie.
Yes. Out comes Luger with Harley Race and Mr. Hughes. And Mr. Hughes has a hard time going between the U and the G.
Yeah.
He is introduced as the WCW World Heavyweight Champion, the total package, Lex Luger. They want the camera to go inside the ring to try to hear Nick Patrick give these men their instructions, and it's fucking Nick Patrick, so...
I have a question. So, like, when they call him the total package, does that just mean he's a complete dick?
Possibly. Because they call him the total package because he's supposed to be able to wrestle. He's supposed to have great wrestling ability and the perfect physique.
I'm just thinking about words and how words work. You know, total, complete, package, dick. It's, you know.
Well, I mean, he would be gone from WCW in about a year or so. As he did have to go to WWF for a little bit. He actually, when he leaves, he actually doesn't sign with WWF to begin with. He signs with the World Bodybuilding Federation.
Right.
That failed fucking shit that Vince tried.
Miserably.
So during the instructions, though, Nick Patrick tells Mr. Hughes he has to go to the back. Why the fuck did he come out to begin with? Like, if he's going to have to go to the back, why did he come out to begin with?
He was bored.
Like, that just doesn't make any sense. It's WCW 91.
He forgot a picture.
Yes. Luger and Simmons start staring daggers to each other. Mr. Hughes has not left yet, by the way. JR reminds us that this is a 2 out of 3 falls match with pay-per-view time remaining. JR goes over Ron Simmons' football accolades and how these two were teammates on some bullshit Chicago team. Some bullshit like minor league, not NFL.
Yeah.
League that nobody gives 2 shits about.
Kids like football.
Yes, possibly. So they locked up and try to out-muscle each other, and we get a stalemate, which confuses Luger because nobody can normally match up with his power. We get some stalling now from Luger as we get some more standing chain wrestling until Luger slides his leg over the ropes, to break the holds. JR talks about Luger going to school at the University of Miami, and I'm already sick of fucking JR talking about football. Ross actually talks about the history between Harley Race and Dusty Rhodes, though, as Dusty has beat Harley twice for the NWA World Championship. Luger pushes Simmons into the corner. Ron pushes him out and goes for a drop kick but misses. Luger takes advantage and starts pounding and kicking on Simmons. JR says that Luger likes to use the pile driver and call it the attitude adjustment. And all I can think of is John Cena is going back to 1991 to sue the shit out of Lex Luger.
Yeah.
Luger whips Simmons into the ropes, but Ron hits a face buster. Ron nails a clothesline on Luger, whips him into the ropes, and nails the power slam. Ron whips him into the ropes again and hits the spine buster for a 1, 2, and 3. Ron Simmons has won the first fall in 4 minutes and 54 seconds. So now the competitors have
your champion look great.
Yeah.
Your champion just looked so great in that.
A champion that's only had the belt for 4 months too.
Yeah.
Or 3 months rather. Great American Bash is in July, so that's 3 months. Ron Simmons has won the first fall. The competitors now have a 60-second break as Dusty and Harley Race both give their guys pep talks. Well,
that shit was so dumb.
Harley was not talking at all.
No, he wasn't.
Tony says that Luger's corner is worried sick. Tony says that Harley never said a word to Luger, but just kept staring down Dusty Rhodes. Luger remains down the entire break, and JR says something might be wrong with his lower back, which it is kind of weird that he was down the entire time.
That's true.
The bell rings. Simmons is stalking Luger and waiting for him to get out of the corner. Nick holds Simmons back as Luger walks the ropes. Luger is stalling big time. He finally comes out of the corner. They go to lock up, and Luger with the gut kick. Luger tries the vertical suplex, but Ron reverses it and also hits a back chop on Luger. Simmons gets Luger in the corner, but Luger with the eye poke. Luger nails Ron in the gut and whips him across the ring. Luger gets caught with a back elbow, and Simmons comes out with a bulldog. Simmons covers for the 1, 2.5.
And that he failed because that bulldog was not British.
This is true. Luger slides under the ropes to the apron, and Harley pushes him back into the ring. Like, literally just pushes him back. You're like, no, fucker, get back in there. Like, that's your guy, dude. Luger with a headbutt to the gut and a few punches. Luger goes for a body slam, but Simmons with a roll-up for 2. Luger again retreats to the corner. JR tries to use some Major League Baseball references, saying it's the 9th inning and Steve Avery is pitching. And Tony just says, yeah, that was last night. You can almost hear JR say, fuck you to Tony as he says, well, John Smoltz then.
And JR just randomly screams, football.
Yes. Luger pulls Simmons to the ropes to the outside, or through the ropes to the outside. Simmons leapfrogs the ropes and rolls Luger up again for 2. Simmons clotheslines Luger and he's down again. Ron goes for another clothesline, but Luger sidesteps and Ron falls to the outside. Simmons tries to get back in the ring, but Luger stomps on him. Have we noticed that Luger can only really punch, axe handle, and kick?
Yeah.
And torture rack.
Yes. Which we don't see in this match. Spoiler alert, we don't see that in this match.
It's bullshit.
Yeah. Simmons, the one movie that actually looks fucking cool that he does.
The only move, yeah.
Simmons rolls back in the ring, or rolls back in, and Luger is on him with some stomps. Luger drags Simmons' eyes across the ropes. And Dusty is asking Nick Patrick what the hell is wrong with him. Luger covers and gets a 2, and now Harley is giving Nick shit, saying he could have counted to 10. And probably, Nick Patrick is a very slow fucking count. Luger hits the power slam on Simmons for 1. Luger with some more offense, mostly punches and kicks. And Simmons is up with a whip across, but Luger catches Ron with the boot and a clothesline. Luger covers again for 2. JR says you won't get any cheap wins in a 2 out of 3 falls match.
You ever noticed like the way Luger fights? It's like a kid that doesn't know how to play a fighting game, so just matches all the buttons and there's just feet and hands everywhere. That's how Luger fights.
Yes. Luger with a vertical
Mom,
suplex.
I'm winning.
But he delays with the cover. JR mentions that Luger is winded and can't fully make that cover or hook the leg because we don't have fucking eyes. The crowd is getting loud, cheering for Simmons. Like, this is actually when the crowd finally wakes up a little bit.
They finally give a shit.
Yes. Luger
because they know they're about to go home and not be kidnapped anymore.
This is true. They lock the doors.
Yeah, they do. They chain them.
Luger has a chin lock locked in, and Luger has his foot on the ropes for extra leverage. Patrick looks up and asks Luger if he was cheating. Luger says, no. Harley says no. And the crowd is calling Nick Patrick a fucking idiot.
Did you cheat?
No.
You need a cheat code at the arcade.
Yes. Nick lifts Ron Simmons' arm, but he keeps it up on 2. Ron whips Luger across, but Luger reverses. Luger comes in and Ron Simmons moves and rolls Luger up again for 2. More Irish whips as Simmons gets Luger down with the back bridge for 2. Luger slowly get up and Simmons hits the ropes, but Harley grabs something. Or Harley grabs his leg. Dusty comes over and now the 2 old men are on the outside fighting. But it's not about Dusty. The crowd is cheering Dusty on as he's nailing Harley with the bionic elbow. As this is happening, Luger hits the ropes and launches himself at Simmons. Harley grabs the top rope and Luger goes over. Patrick rings the bell as he claims Ron Simmons threw Luger over the top, which in 1991 WCW was a disqualification.
Yep.
Let's ignore the fact that we've seen that same shit 3 times tonight.
And no one called it.
Racism. Just
Luger
saying.
wins the second fall via disqualification at 15 minutes. So now we just had 10 minutes of all that bullshit.
Damn.
Just for a disqualification. We are now even at 1 fall apiece. Dusty trying to boost Simmons' confidence as Harley just tries to wipe the sweat off of Luger.
And there were
Patrick-
so many Irish whips in that match. I need a shot of Jameson.
This is true. Actually, that would be really nice right now.
I know.
Patrick comes over and Dusty and Ron give him shit about the dirty shit he's let Luger get away with. And Patrick just goes, "What do you want me to do? Get your fucking job."
Jesus Christ.
The bell rings and we get some more football references from JR. Because
Penalty, flag on the field.
It's the 4th quarter. And you can just hear Tony go, "Shut the fuck up, dude." Like, nobody cares. Nobody cares about football. This is wrestling.
Meanwhile, the doors are being unchained.
But the fans do not know.
Yeah.
Luger cowers in the corner as Ron stalks him. Luger attacks him with a cheap shot. Luger is now bleeding over his right eye for no fucking reason whatsoever, by the way.
How dare you make me bleed my own blood?
After the 5th axe handle, Simmons hulks up and starts whipping that ass. Simmons whips Luger into the corner, back body drops, and Simmons covers for 2. He complains about Patrick's notorious slow count. Simmons just covers him again, and the fucking camera's cut outside to Dusty as there is a count going on. Why would you cut away from the count?
Because Dusty Rhodes.
Like, fucking WCW. And I literally wrote, "Come on, WCW, you got to do better than that," because they're still listening.
Spoiler alert, they don't.
They don't, no. They're still listening 23 years later, don't worry. Ron with some more offense and places Luger on the top rope. Ron Simmons nails a superplex on Luger and covers for 2. The crowd is definitely hot for a Ron Simmons title run. Like, they really are. They're cheering Simmons on. They really want a title. They want Simmons to win the title.
He deserved it.
Yeah. It would be another year or so before he gets it, but still.
Right.
Simmons with a shoulder block off the second rope sends Luger to the outside. Simmons slams Luger's head into the guardrail. Simmons gets into the 3-point stance, goes to nail Luger, who moves, and Simmons hits the ring post. Back in the ring, Luger lifts Simmons up and drops him with the attitude adjustment pile driver for the 1, the 2, and the 3. Lex Luger wins the match, keeps his title, 2 falls to 3 via pinfall at 18 minutes and 59 seconds. Now,
and that was 18 minutes and 59 seconds we couldn't get back.
Yes. Now, does Luger stay around and celebrate, hold the title up, anything?
Peace.
No, he fucks right on off. Grabs the title, goes, "Yep, job's done. Let's go." We cut to JR and Tony talking about the main event. It's pretty much just a recap of the match.
In
They
football.
start to Was that? Oh, in football, yes. They start to discuss Rick Rude's debut. Finally, Flying Brian on winning the W. Finally, congratulate Flying Brian on winning the WCW Light Heavyweight title. We cut to a wide shot, and that arena has cleared the fuck out.
That quick.
And for no reason whatsoever, pyro starts going off on the stage.
It was the ghost. The ghost did it.
The Phantom. And for a couple of people turn and go, "Ooh. Come on, the car's hot. Come on, the car. We got to warm the car up." Roll credits. That is Halloween Havoc. 91.
And we just had to watch that shit.
Yes. Hey, look, you wanted a Halloween Havoc, all right?
Oh, yeah.
All right, so Raz, let's get your thoughts on the whole show. Let's get your thoughts on the match first. Lex Luger and Ron Simmons.
Not a big fan of the complete dick. Years from now he'll go on to kill Miss Elizabeth, and that's just that was really sad. I'm a big Ron Simmons guy. I fucking love him. Damn, like Ron Simmons is a shit. I've always loved Ron Simmons. I'll always love Ron Simmons. And this is just a lot of proof on how tough it was for him early in his career. And he got fucked a lot. A lot. And that has always pissed me off.
Now I will say though, beating Vader for the title means a little more to me, at least.
Oh yeah, it's a much worthier win, but still,
Yeah, he should have had a longer run with the title too. He only had like a month or so.
Oh, much longer run than that. He deserved a way longer run than that.
Matt, final thoughts on the final match, on the main event.
That stupid ass top rope bullshit was so terrible. You're gonna nitpick where and when you're gonna use it, and I don't get it.
It's no different. No different than my dad is the promoter rule.
Yeah.
I mean, you get used to it if we're going to do these kind of shows, because it happens a lot.
Oh yeah, WCW is just terrible for making up random rules that no one knows about, enforcing a rule like 20 years ago and suddenly bringing them back for one night only. I mean, and not telling anyone about it. Like, it's fucking ridiculous.
Ron Simmons is great. I enjoyed the match, kind of. I enjoyed Ron Simmons.
Right.
Yes. Ron Simmons was great. I mean, he was great when his day, definitely like Raz said, he got the short end of the stick, and
he definitely should have won that match.
A lot of it could have come down to the to the race issues.
There was definitely a lot of racism in wrestling, a ton back in the day.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, I mean, people afraid, put the title on him because, can a black man carry a company and all that stuff, and then you put the title on. You watch this match. People wanted it. They wanted a Ron Simmons title run. It was blatantly obvious. The fans were essentially telling him, take the fucking title off Luger, give it to Ron Simmons. That's who we want right now. Because if you're not going to give us Ric Flair, give us Ron Simmons.
But look back over in WWF, at the time, there was a strong, non-white presence over there, and history of non-white people having the belts and being successful and driving stories very nicely.
Yeah. But you're also talking, this is 1991 Southern wrestling.
No, and I get it. I totally get it, but like, it was bullshit.
But it would take Bill Watts to come in.
True.
And finally, push him, because Bill Watts knew what black wrestlers could do. Watts, Bill Watts' favorite guy to push in his territory was the Junkyard Dog.
Ew, was fucking epic.
Hell of a wrestler.
The Junkyard Dog, and he was always pushed in Mid-South. And
fuck with the JYD, man.
Yeah.
Fuck no, you can't.
And people fucking loved it. But yeah, Ron Simmons, it took another year or so for him to finally get a title run, and then they took it off him in a month. But all right, now Raz, full show. What are your thoughts?
I wish I could run away on the Yellow Brick Road and never see the show again.
And if you run around the Yellow Brick Road, though, you got to see Oz.
Yeah, but it'll be the real version of him, not the unfortunate Kevin Nash version. Stan's mask.
Yes. Matt, your first dive into 1990s wrestling, especially 91 WCW wrestling.
Which is very different.
Thoughts on the show?
Terrible, besides stunning Steve Austin and Dustin Rhodes.
So that's going to be your favorite match?
Oh, yeah. It was hands down the whole card.
Well, probably the best match on the card, yeah. I mean...
Definitely. Overall, yeah, from beginning to end.
Yeah. Raz, what was your favorite match? Or did you have one?
The Chamber of Horrors. Bang, bang, baby. Bang, bang.
But all right, guys, I think that's gonna wrap it up tonight. I'm not gonna apologize for putting us through this.
I mean, I think we got to watch the bad shows like this to remember what it was like. This is nostalgia for us. It's new for Matt, but it's nostalgia for us. And
Yes.
even the bad side of wrestling has a lot of merit. Let's keep in
Yeah,
mind that the bad side of wrestling also gave birth to the Attitude Era, which is probably the most fun for me, like to watch era of wrestling over in WWF. And I'm sure we'll watch some of those terrible fucking pay-per-views too at some point.
We'll go through and watch them and realize, oh, really only we appreciate it.
Love you, Don, Jenny.
hell yeah.
I mean, we go through watch the Attitude Era stuff. We realize, oh, really, the only shit we ever really cared about for the Attitude Era was
DX.
Stone Cold.
For me, it was DX. I like Stone Cold a lot, but DX was my shit.
Stone Cold, and the tits and ass.
Oh yeah. And let's not. I love the characters. It's like, hey, what do we call this guy? What does he do? He carries a trash can. That's the Garbage Man. What does that guy do? He steals cars. Well, enter the Repo Man. It was always the something man. And let's not forget the most random character in wrestling, Adam Bomb.
Yeah, I don't get that one. I never, even back then, I never got that one.
I did, but his goggles were really fucking cool.
Yes. We love you too, Jenny. But yeah, it's we're gonna do some Attitude Era stuff. We're gonna do 80s stuff. Poor Matt when we do the 80s stuff.
I enjoy some of the 80s wrestling though.
Yeah, to be fair, actually, WWE wise, Matt has gone back and watched a lot of the classic stuff with the 80s and 90s. There for a while, we were going through Peacock for a while, like religiously, and just getting ripped. And we started back from the first year they the first pay-per-view. Matt and I did. This was a couple years ago. Like for a while we did this, and we made it, I think, to like 92 or 93.
Okay.
So I mean, he's seen a decent amount of the older stuff on the WWE side.
And the first ever wrestling I've ever saw was this Monday Night Raw tape, 2 CDs, and it was
DVD.
DVDs, and it was
you son of a bitch, making me feel old now.
There were 2 8-tracks.
Experience that I had with Shawn Michaels, Yokozuna, Doink, like I loved it.
Well, what do you say our next show we start the journey through Raw? We'll do the first 2 episodes of Raw for the next show.
I'm down for that.
Yeah.
If you guys at home, we are going to get back to Matt and Monsters as well. Like we really wanted to do 2 different wrestling shows, like to show like what's happening now and what happened then, because it's a lot of fucking fun.
And it's great to know the history of the wrestling on top of that, on top of the modern stuff. What brought us to this,
Yeah, like when we see Val Venus, we'll probably mention Rick Rude again.
Yes. And what a big piece of shit Val Venus is.
Yes.
Oh, shit.
Basically we'll go through, we're going to go through the history of wrestling. There are so many bad people.
Yes. And trust me, you've not seen the last of Eric Bischoff, because when we go over to fucking WWE, we'll see him some more.
Like it will. I mean, if worse comes to worse, we'll go back to the AWA, and guess what? You'll see Eric Bischoff, because that's where he got started.
Yeah.
And this is like after AWA was any good. Like they were shitty by the time Eric Bischoff gets there. But
pretty much, you'll see Eric Bischoff and Paul Heyman about everything.
We'll go back to like early 80s. We'll see, and we'll watch old AWA shows, and you'll be like, wait a minute. That's like the entire rock and wrestling fucking roster. What do you...
Yeah, and we'll go back to when Vince was still pretending to be a ring announcer, not the owner of the company.
Yeah. I honestly, and again, this comes back to the 90s, where before we had internet to tell us shit like this, I never fucking knew that Vince McMahon owned the company.
I didn't either then. I thought he was just the announcer.
He just came out.
Macho Man was on commentary.
Yep.
You mean when he rumored to have banged Stephanie McMahon?
Yep.
Oh shit.
Dude, we'll talk about, we'll go through, we'll talk about the steroid trial.
The storyline
There's
he tried to force, where the incest storyline. Yeah, we'll hit that
Oh,
up.
Jesus Christ.
Or the time that Kane got Lita pregnant.
Oh,
yeah. Forgot about that. And then Mike Knox kicked the baby into the crowd.
Yep.
But it wasn't his fault. It was not his fault.
Total accident.
and then Dustin
complete
Rhodes'
accident.
child molester character.
Yep.
Oh, Jesus.
Or the what was it, the the street fight between Goldust and Roddy Piper that somehow included footage of the OJ chase in the Bronco.
Yeah.
That was fucking so epic.
Lord. That was WrestleMania on top of that too. That's we'll watch the shitty matches. We'll go through. Hey, who knows? Maybe we'll bring up the ECW zombie.
Oh yeah, and we'll talk about how Trump was actually an enormous part of wrestling back in the day.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, 2 WrestleManias at Trump Plaza.
Yep, which is the entire reason as a child I thought he was a dick. Hey, this is not a political comment. I'm not discussing politics. Him as a human being,
This
as
is
a kid, I
wrestling.
thought he was a dick.
I mean, I get it. I get it. But yeah, we got a lot of stuff planned on this one. You know, like Raz said, we're still gonna do Matt and Monsters.
Yeah. Also, spoiler alert: he lost a title belt to his toupee.
You know why do I believe that?
It sounds like something that would happen.
Shit, maybe we'll do one episode just on the DDT Pro, like was that Iron Man one where Joey Ryan and everybody had the title, and the Invisible Man won the title like 3 times. It's like a 24/7 title, and they did a bunch of different like skits, and they were funny and all. And then you realize Joey Ryan. Well, everybody was right about Joey Ryan at the beginning when they said he was a dick, and yeah. But all right, guys. Raz, where can they find you?
You can find me tomorrow morning at your mom's house. I'm there for the pancakes. Otherwise, you can find me at raztslasher.com. And for the last full weekend, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, down at Hell's Dungeon in Dayton, Ohio.
Matt.
You can also find me at Hell's Dungeon in Dayton, Ohio, as well as Mats and Monsters and Hardcore Heels. And you can also find me next to LA Knight saying, yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, you can also find me at Hell's Dungeon this weekend. Thursday night, regular haunt tomorrow night, right?
With Joe Blasters. Long story. It's in our group.
Okay, I gotta look at that. I haven't seen that yet. Friday night, Chaos Night. You go through the haunt backwards. Saturday night, Blackout Night, Part 2.
Yeah, but this isn't is the intended blackout night. It still has the music and the props moving.
Yes. But you can also find me at the Bloody Binge Movie Podcast on every platform, X, Facebook, everywhere. You can also join me every Friday at 4 p.m. Starting next week, we're going to hopefully get back to the regular schedule. Fridays at 4 p.m. with a different movie each week. Christmas season's coming up. I'm a huge fan of Christmas horror movies. So we'll be watching a few of those. But next Friday, we're doing an episode of Shivers, which is our paranormal episodes. And we are going to Kentucky to study the cryptids of Kentucky. Hopefully everything works out.
Yes.
So we can get that out on time. But other than that, guys, have a happy and safe Halloween. Do something spooky. Watch some horror movies. Go watch Halloween Havoc 91 so we're not the only ones who had to suffer through this shit.
Yeah, don't forget to suck it.
You know, hell, email us and email me. Tell you what, email me and tell me at bloodybinge at gmail.com. Tell me how much you fucking hate PN News.
Fat fuck.
And how big of a fat fuck he is. But guys, we'll see you later. Happy Halloween. Have a great weekend.
Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween. Suck it, guys.
And watch some really bad wrestling. Later, guys.